I now call the April 20th, 2026 regular meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Merrill for the invocation.
If you are so inclined to join me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful spring weather. We ask for you to please be with the Gary Sides family, be with his wife, all of his sisters, his children, and please help this board to continue with strength, courage, and wisdom as we carry on without our board member. Thank you for your many, many blessings, and with that, we just thank you, Lord, in all that you do for us, seen and unseen. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we're going to take a few minutes here to honor and remember Commissioner Gary Sides, and I would ask that you all join us in a moment of silence for Gary. Thank you. So I want to take a few minutes. One of Gary's last requests was that his resignation letter be read aloud at our very next meeting. And I will say that out of profound respect for Commissioner Sides, his wife Myra, and his entire family, that our board will not be entertaining any nominations for appointment this evening. So Gary's last request as a member of this board was to have his resignation letter read aloud during comments. And at Gary's request, and to honor that request, I will read his letter in its entirety. And I ask that our clerk please capture this for the purpose of the meeting minutes. The following letter was sent March 31st, 2026 at approximately 10:28 p.m. and I received it the morning of April 1st. Commissioner Sides writes, and I quote, "From an early age, I always wanted to be involved in some way to work with others to make the community I lived in a better place for all. Being elected to the Union County Board of Commissioners is one of the highlights of my community involvement efforts, and I had such high hopes, and I was ready and willing to put the time in to learn all that I could about county government, research those areas I was less familiar with, and physically observe the actual day-to-day operations so I could make the best informed decisions on matters that came before me during my time on the council. I knew that is what the citizens of Union County deserved and had entrusted me to do. I was appalled to learn there were so many senior citizens on a waiting list for assistance with the basic human need for food. On day one of being sworn into office, I began trying to address that need, and although I was not entirely successful in advocating for them, and probably approached the issue a bit too zealously, my colleagues on the board and I were able to find some assistance for them, and many of the towns, churches, and nonprofits in the county stepped up to help. Based on my time on the Union County Public Schools Board of Education, I wanted to work towards higher pay for our teachers, classroom support staff, and the non-teaching personnel that make a school system excel at providing the best possible educational environment and opportunities for all students. I should have done better. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on this. I became aware of the need for a county jail, not only to increase the capacity to house detainees and inmates, but equally, if not more importantly, for the safety of the personnel that work in the jail. This issue has been kicked down the road for over 20 years. The last jail built in this county was done under court order, and I have no doubt corners were cut to quickly build the current jail, which has resulted in additional millions being spent over the years to maintain the facility. There will be a referendum on the ballot in November for the registered voters to decide the fate of this issue. I hope citizens will support the referendum to build a new jail, and that the ultimate design of that jail makes expansion, if needed, in the future years a more easily addressed issue. I have been humbled and amazed at the commitment of the personnel in the Union County Sheriff's Office. We are also fortunate to have this caliber of law enforcement in Union County. My hat goes off to Sheriff Eddie Cathy and the entire department under his leadership. What an honor to have, although briefly, spent time in the presence of these fine officers. I believe there is work needed to improve maintaining and adequately supporting financially those working to keep our county safe. There is outstanding work being done every day by the employees of Union County in all the other departments I have not mentioned. My thanks and appreciation go to Brian Matthews and the staff on a job well done. 4 months after taking office as a county commissioner, I was diagnosed with brain cancer, glioblastoma, stage 4. My treatment plan has included brain surgery to remove as much of the tumor as possible, an intensive 3-week round of high-dosage radiation and chemotherapy, and continues with infusions every 2 weeks to fight this disease. I am thankfully stable and have held out hope that I could remain productive in my work on the Board of Commissioners. After much prayer and upon the advice of my care team, I am submitting my resignation from the board effective March 31st, 2026. And he goes on to say, I ask that my letter of resignation be read into the minutes during commissioner comments in its entirety. At the next board meeting. Finally, I want to thank my colleagues for your prayers, offers of support, and patience. I wish you all the best. May God bless you all. Gary Marshall Sides, Union County Board of Commissioners. End quote. I'd like to open the meeting up for comments from our board. If any of the board members would like to provide comments about Gary, condolences, the floor is open.
Chairman Helms,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll start off. I was fortunate enough to meet Gary Sides in 2012 when I was first appointed or elected to the Board of Education. We met for lunch one afternoon in Indian Trail, and he said, "You'll be able to recognize who I am. I'll have on a cowboy hat." And I have to give Gary a lot of props because he loved his cowboy hat, but he also removed his cover when he was inside a building. So he was raised well. Gary was passionate, and like he said, he's zealous. And, that's something that we can all use going forward. Make sure our passion is directed at something that we all care about. Gary cared about special needs children, and he really fought for a lot of students on a personal level. We're praying for peace and comfort for Myra, for Gage, for Logan, and Cheyenne. But most importantly, if you're a Christian, which Gary was, he believed in Jesus. And that is something that we all can be very thankful for, is his faith. And the last thing that I will say, it is very difficult to lose a board member. And Commissioner Helms and Commissioner Merrill, just a few short years ago, lost somebody else that they loved. And so it has reopened feelings for them. But Gary, well done, good and faithful servant.
Commissioner Balkin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. I would just like to say about Gary, he always conducted himself as a gentleman. Even when we disagreed, there was never a hard word towards one another. Nothing was ever personal or taken personally. I would say that Gary had a servant's heart. And I would totally agree with Christina. He always had his own style. From the cowboy hat to the red Corvette, and he held his beliefs strong, and he wasn't afraid to voice his beliefs and speak up, and I admire that. So I just want to offer my condolences to all his family members. Just say that it truly was an honor and a pleasure to serve here with Gary. And last time I spoke with Gary, I had actually called to ask him for something for myself and ask him a question politically, and he was telling me about his illness, and he said this doesn't end well. That's what he said, but he was so upbeat and uplifting to me. He just said, "Thank you so much for calling me, and I'm enjoying serving with you." It was just so upbeat that he lifted me up. So I just really applaud the life he lived, and would reiterate Christina's words, well done. Thank you.
If you want to wait for comments.
I'm going to see if I can pull this together. Like Christina was already on the Board of Education when Gary and I ran in 2014. And I remember the first time I went to a meeting, Gary scared me a little bit. This giant with, the hat and the boots and everything, and he was just so ready to go, and I hadn't really figured out exactly what I had done to myself to join this 9-member board on the Board of Education. I just knew I wanted to help teachers and children. But Gary, before we even got sworn in, he had a checklist of everything he was going to do, and I just sat there in awe like, wow, that's awesome. He had served on the town of Stallings. I live in Stallings, and I just, he is a person bigger than life, and he did love Jesus, and he was a solid Christian. He was always positive and full of hope, and I think that's the one thing that's broken my heart, because he wanted to work on this board so badly. And he only got like 4 or 5 months in before he had to call and let me know about the diagnosis. And so I just want everyone to honor him. I know for myself, he did have goals and objectives, things he wanted to take care of for the county. And some of you may or may not know this, but when he found out that some of our senior citizens were sitting on a wait list, the very first thing he did is he got in that little red Corvette and he went down to the Human Services building and signed up so he could start delivering meals to our senior citizens. And he would just make you so proud if you got to see him behind closed doors. He would make you so proud. And I think his life is definitely, I never dreamed we'd lose him. I still find it hard to believe that I can't pick up the phone and call him, but now I get to enjoy talking to Myra more. So Myra and I have had a lot of really good conversations since Gary went home. And so I just ask everyone, you know, if there's something that needs to be done, I would just encourage everyone to jump in your little red Corvette and just go do it, because that's what Gary would have done, and that's going to be something that I take away from this experience, is to be like Gary. If there, it's one thing to sit here on the board and deal with policy and budgets and stuff like that, but he was very impulsive, and he just wanted to get things done quickly, whether it was right or wrong, just get it done. And but I think there's a lot to be said for his spirit. If you know it's right, figure out a way to get it done, and even if that means you have to go do it yourself. So I'm going to say it again. Job well done, Gary Marshall Sides. We will so miss you, and we'll make sure that Myra and the children are doing okay, and we'll make you proud, Gary.
Today's a tough day. It's a tough day for our board. April 7th was a tough day for all of us. It was a tough day for our county. When I learned about Gary's resignation, I was truly heartbroken, and I wasn't heartbroken simply because we were losing a colleague on this board, but I was heartbroken because I knew what it meant. And it's no secret that Gary's been dealing with some significant health concerns. However, out of respect for Gary's privacy on that matter, it really wasn't publicly discussed. And you see, it wasn't really my place or anybody else's place to reveal his own personal battles and all that he had been fighting. And the only person that could do that was Gary. And I think through his letter, he was able to tell you in his own words about the fight that he was fighting. Before Gary was Commissioner Sides, he was actually my representative on the Board of Education in District 3. And Gary represented not only me, but he represented my children. And during some of the most difficult times that our county and our school system and our families have probably ever faced, he fought for my kids, and he fought for your kids. The thing about Gary is he always fought for what he felt was right, no matter what. And I have no doubt that Gary fought cancer with that same intensity, refusing to give up. Whether you agreed with him or not, Gary lived a life of service, and many people will never fully know or understand the depths of his involvement within our community. You could often find Gary working at the Coffee Nut or attending high school football games, but he was always present. He was present. He was there. He was willing to put in the work. I mean, so many times he'd be at schools reading to children and so many other events around our county. And, as a commissioner, Gary was always passionate about serving the people of our county, and he was always intense about the issues that he thought were important. And Gary could be fiery at times. I think everybody's seen him kick over some chairs. But he was truly a cowboy. He really was. And few people will ever be able to match his passion, his intensity, and his love for the people. And Commissioner Merrill hit on this, but Gary wanted to be a commissioner. It truly meant so much to him to represent you and serve you in that capacity. I think that Gary understood that serving in this office wasn't about authority, because it's the people that have that authority. It's about being a servant to the people. And for him to resign, Gary knew that he could no longer serve and that his time was short. And that's why I was truly heartbroken. So on April 7th, Union County lost a good man. And I want to offer my condolences to Myra and the Sides family. And Gary was my friend. But to you, he was a husband and a father. I just want you to know I share in your grief, and I pray for God's blessings on you and yours. Any other comments from the board? You guys want to take a 5-minute recess?
Yes, please.
Okay. The board's going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back with public comments. couple comments from the community. And it looks as though we've got speakers that have signed up here in person, as well as online. So before I recognize speakers, each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they are residents of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make remarks. A tone may sound. At the conclusion of your remarks, a speaker may not yield any of his or her time to another speaker. Speakers may not discuss matters which are subject to public hearings, and they must be courteous in their language and presentation. Restatements or repetitive comments by the same speaker, whether at the same or separate meetings, may be ruled out of order and terminated by the chair. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Speakers may leave written comments and/or supporting documents, if any, with the clerk to the board. And our first speaker tonight is Michael Evola.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Evola. I'm a resident of Union County, and I live in the town of Indian Trail. I am actually also the Community Engagement Manager for the Community Shelter of Union County, and as I go throughout the community to let folks know about the services that we offer here in Union County, one of the services that folks don't typically know that we offer is our senior food box drive-through pantry, and that's a program that I'm looking to promote out more. It's for seniors over the age of 60. This program provides supplemental food boxes each month to income-eligible adults age 60 and over here in the community. This program is designed to support the health and well-being of seniors by helping stretch food budgets and improve access to healthy foods. And this program is possible. It is a partnership with Second Harvest Metro Lina Food Bank, and we administer this through our partners also with the Department of Agriculture. If folks are interested in learning more about this program, either have any questions or eligibility requirement questions, also about enrollment, I would encourage them to call 980-220-9488 with any questions. Again, I'm just looking to go out here in the community, let folks know that this is available out there for them. And I also have some flyers as well, so I would love to leave this with y'all. If you know anyone that may benefit or may be able to benefit from this program, or if anyone in the public knows anyone that may be able to benefit from this program, I would love to share that information with y'all.
Mr. Evola, if you would also contact the Union County Council on Aging, Andrew Friend is over that right now. So if you would contact him, he can direct you to a lot of people that are in need of help.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Our next speaker is Alicia DeBerry.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, and distinguished guests. I am Alicia DeBerry. I'm a local realtor, a broker in charge, and a real estate educator, and a proud advocate for fair housing opportunities within our community. I stand before you tonight to respectfully request your consideration in adopting a Fair Housing Month resolution for April, in alignment with the National Association of Realtors and the principles that were established under the Federal Fair Housing Act in 1968. Fair Housing Month is more than a symbolic recognition. It is an opportunity for us as a community to reaffirm our commitment to equal access, opportunity, and dignity in housing for all people, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, their national origin, familial status, or disability. Housing is foundational, and it impacts education, economic mobility, public health, and the overall strength of our community. And when we promote fair housing, we promote stronger families, stronger neighborhoods, and stronger county. As professionals in housing, we firsthand see how education, awareness, and intentional policy can help remove barriers and create pathways to homeownership and housing stability for more families. And so by adopting this resolution, the board sends a clear message that our county values fairness, inclusion, and equal opportunity, not in words, but in actions. So earlier in the month, I emailed, and I'm not sure if you guys received it, but I knew that I had signed up to come here. But the proclamation is a template from the National Association of Realtors, and it just simply officially proclaims April as Fair Housing Month. I wanted to ask for your consideration. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Our next speaker tonight is Deb Helms.
Good evening. My name is Deb Helms, and I live in unincorporated Union County. I wanted to step forward, and I wanted to offer prayers and condolences to the sides, to Gary's wife and his children and his entire family, and not just to his family who lost their husband and their father and brother, to his colleagues here on the Board of Commissioners, his former colleagues on the Board of Education, and not just to his colleagues, to the entire community in Union County. There are very few people that I've ever met that loved Union County the way Gary did, and he didn't keep it quiet. He did it boldly. He did it loudly. I came familiar with Gary before my children even entered school. I would listen to the Board of Education meetings online, and I would hear this loud voice coming across on the live stream. And I was very proud to find out that that was my district representative. It made me feel confident about sending my children to UCPS. And anytime I had a question, a concern, a problem, I could pick up the phone and I would call Gary, and I know that he would take my call, he would help out, and if he couldn't help, he would not stop until the issue was resolved. And though the entire community lost a very wonderful man, on Friday mornings, he would be in various elementary schools reading to the children. Friday nights, he would be at one of the high schools watching the football games, and he would be constantly posting the scores of the other games. That's how I kept up with the Friday Night Lights scores, was by watching Gary's social media, and I knew what was happening. And it is not one surprise to me that as he transitioned from the Board of Education right over to the Board of Commissioner, the heart of passion that he provided to the youngest, to our children in schools, he immediately started fighting for our senior citizens in this community. And he fought with love and passion and courage, and he was bold. There's no way to say that he was not bold. And one of the pictures that was scrolling across, just he was smiling right after I could just hear the laughter that was coming out, because his laughter was infectious. It was, you could hear it across the room. So I just want to, pray for his family, pray for the community, and everybody strive to be a little more bold and loving and courageous like Gary Sides was.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susanna Wedra.
Good evening. My name is Susanna Wedra, and I live in Waxhaw. I was deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Gary Sides. Gary exemplified what a dedicated public service should be: always accessible, responsive, and committing to do what was right for our community. He was a passionate champion for our exceptional children, ensuring that their voices were heard and that their needs were met. Most memorably, during the 2021 school lockdowns and mask mandates, Gary showed real courage by standing against the authoritarian overreach. When I emailed the school board expressing my concerns for our children, Gary personally replied with a message full of encouragement and hope, affirming that these measures would not stand. His willingness to speak truth gave strength to the families at this very difficult time. Gary's integrity, compassion, and bravery leave a lasting legacy. My thoughts and prayers are with his family and all who knew him. Thank you, Gary, for your service.
Our Our next speaker is Richard Drought.
Good evening. I'm Richard Drought. I live in Waxhaw. I just wanted to say a few words of appreciation for Gary Sides. He was a sincere and courageous man. I first met him back in 2021 during the crazy days of COVID, and he really stood strong for our kids. He was one of the majority of Board of Education members who extended medical freedom to our kids, and I'll always remember him and appreciate him for that. Fast forward a couple of years when Sue and Robert and I ran in Waxhaw successfully. He was an encouraging voice, and he really, he cared so much about Union County. He paid attention to all the meetings. He was paying attention to Waxhaw. Truth be told, we weren't too welcome as newcomers on the board, and so it got pretty contentious. And I remember one time he called me after a really contentious meeting with his typical sense of humor. He says, "You guys are the best show in town." But of course, we didn't want to be the best show in town, but it was what it was. But I will miss him, and but I do take comfort in knowing that he was a fellow man of faith, and that I'll see him again one day. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Pittman.
Good evening. My name is Mark Pittman of Waxhaw. With great sadness and the deepest respect to the Sides family, it is my honor as chairman of the Union County Republican Party to today remember and honor the life of Gary Sides, a man whose service to Union County was defined by commitment, integrity, and a deep belief in strengthening our communities and protecting the greatest treasure, the students of Union County. Gary dedicated many years to public service, most notably through the work on the Union County Board of Education and here as well. In both roles, he approached every decision with a focus on what would best serve families, students, and taxpayers. His leadership was steady, thoughtful, and always rooted in doing what he believed was the right thing for the people of this county. Beyond titles or positions, Gary was someone who cared deeply about Union County's future. He invested his time, his energy, and his heart into making this community stronger. Those who worked alongside him know how seriously he took that responsibility and how tirelessly he defended the rights of each citizen without bias. We continue to extend our prayers and heartfelt condolences to this family. Union County is better because of Gary's service and sacrificial service, and his impact will be felt for many years to come. Miss Myra, I can only imagine your pain. I know this event would absolutely crush me. I pray that our Father in heaven grant you peace and understanding, that you be strengthened and comforted by the presence of the Holy Spirit, and receive the healing that only comes from the hand of Jesus. Thank you.
So that is the end of our speaker list. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Sorry, let me repeat that. I just realized my mic was off. That is the end of our speakers for tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak or make any kind of comments? Okay, seeing none. The next item on our agenda is item 26-203, and that is public hearing for rezoning petition RZ-2026-004, McAllister. I'll now open the public hearing and recognize John Ware. Did I get it right this time, John?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Senior planner for brief comments from county staff. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So this is a rezoning case requested by the applicant Tommy McAllister Jr. and the owner Winding Creek LLC. It's a request to rezone one parcel totaling 10.84 acres appearing on the tax map as tax parcel 040360007, located on Pageland Highway. The request is to rezone it from highway corridor with conditions to light industrial. The rezoning request is a straight rezoning, and there are no conditions associated with the request. The property is located at the location of the red star on the vicinity map. It's located on the west side of Pageland Highway, south of Claude Austin Road, in the southeastern portion of the county. So the property was originally rezoned in 2016 with the following restrictions: off-premise signs, campground/RV park, flea market, or Type 3 mini storage. Type 3 mini storage involves any outdoor storage. Let's see, it's approximately 3 miles south of the city of Monroe. These are the existing conditions on the site along Pageland Highway. This is the site in the top left corner. This is north going down Pageland Highway, south on Pageland Highway, and then the opposite side of the street on the bottom right. This is the site plan associated with that parcel and currently what's on the parcel associated with the conditional rezoning. Again, the parcel is currently zoned highway corridor with conditions. It's been used for office and contractor equipment storage. Again, it was rezoned in 2016. And so what they are currently wanting to do is rezone it back to light industrial so that when they can open the property up to anything that is allowed in the light industrial district.
John?
Yes.
If I can jump in with a question. So you just said that it was this property was rezoned in 2016.
Yes.
Was it originally light industrial before the rezoning in 2016?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
There are no streams or wetlands or floodplain on the site. This is the current zoning on the site. So north of the parcel, you see that there is already a light industrial zoning for that parcel, and then above that is a light industrial that's conditionally zoned. Everything else around it is RA40, residential, agricultural. It's been used as a gun shop and most recently an office and equipment storage facility. A telecommunications tower has been located on the site but was removed within the last several years. Properties immediately to the north, again, were light industrial and light industrial with conditions. So the new zoning would in effect match what's north of it. Transportation, the site is on US 601, which is NCDOT maintained facility. The section carries approximately 14,000 vehicles per day. There are no funded road improvement projects in the immediate vicinity of the rezoning. A TIA or a traffic impact analysis was not required. Because there are no proposed uses with the rezoning, staff aren't able to properly assess the impacts on the corridor because we don't know what will be going on in the parcel. The Union County 2050 Comprehensive Plan identifies this area as an employment corridor overlaid upon rural residential. The proposed zoning district is therefore considered appropriate, although a lack of utilities may mean that the site cannot be fully utilized with a significant number of employees or customers. Again, I should have mentioned there is no water or sewer on the property. Because this rezoning request is commercial in nature, Union County Public Schools was not consulted. And again, City of Monroe wasn't consulted because it wasn't close to them. A community meeting was not required because it wasn't a conditional rezoning. And finally, negatives of the proposal. The future allowed uses on the property under certain uses allowed in light industrial districts could result in increased congestion on the roads and streets adjacent and nearby to the property. Traffic congestion is a noted concern in the plan. Certain uses allowed in a light industrial zoning district are non-employment uses that are contemplated uses in an employment corridor as identified in the plan. The proposed rezoning will facilitate ongoing and potential future industrial uses in close proximity to existing residential uses, including residential uses in areas identified as rural residential. Positives of the proposal, the proposed use is consistent with the plan. The plan's land use map identifies this area as an employment corridor overlay. The plan provides a variety of employment uses that may be appropriate along an employment corridor. The parcel of land is a larger parcel, over 10 acres, and is reasonable in size for the proposed zoning district. An immediately adjacent property is already zoned as light industrial, with the subject property also having a direct access to US 601. The property is also located within approximately a 3/4 mile radius of an existing commercial use. The benefits to the community at large with neighbors and the property owners of the proposed rezoning outweigh any detriments to the neighbors and other caused by the rezoning. The benefits of this rezoning include potentially allowing for increased employment or business uses for the surrounding community to utilize, as well as developing an area designated in the plan for development along a significant transportation corridor in the county. The staff recommendation for this was approval. The planning board recommendation, the land use board evaluated this rezoning request at its March 17th, 2026 meeting and recommended approval on a 7-0 vote, citing consistency with the land use map. Are there any questions?
Any questions for John? John?
I just
Yes, sir.
wanted to give you a little bit of context. I believe this used to be the old Whitley Power Company site. So just for reference, that was zoned light industrial years ago. They wanted to have a retail component on that site. In order to do that, they had to rezone the property to highway commercial because retail wasn't really allowed at that time in light industrial. So my understanding is now they'd like to go back to what it was before, light industrial, in order to just match, number one, kind of what's beside it and what it was before, because they're no longer doing the retail function on the property. So I just want to give you some context for that.
Thank you, Brian. Is the applicant here, John? Yes, sir. If you'd like to make some comments, you're more than welcome to approach the lectern.
Don't really have a whole lot to say about it, I guess, but I think it's the right thing to do after talking to the planning group. I didn't want the retail component there anymore, and that was a special use we had, trying to be a little more for the community, but I think it wasn't really the right thing to do, and I think it needs to go back to light industrial, you know, where it should be. It doesn't need to be heavy industrial. It's not what you want in that area, but you do want light industrial based on everything, and that's the reason. Nothing, you know, other than it needs to be light industrial, probably to match what it should be. Thank you. I'm Tommy McAllister. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Is there anyone signed up to speak on this public hearing? All right. Since there's no one signed up to speak on this public hearing, I'll open it up for the public. If anyone would like to make some comments regarding this public hearing, please come forward. Seeing none. I will now close the public hearing. Next item on our agenda is item 26-182, and that's proclamation of National Public Health Week 2026. I will now recognize Tracy Coley, Public Health Director, for brief comments concerning this item. Thank you, Tracy.
Good evening, Chairman Helms, Board of County Commissioners. I appreciate your time this evening. Before I start, I want to express condolences on behalf of the Human Services Agency and Public Health Department to Commissioner Sy's family, friends, colleagues. He was on our board, served with passion and distinction, and will be very much remembered for his service on that board and to our community. So thank you for your time this evening. I'm just going to provide a summary of the proclamation that we're asking for. Appreciate your support. The proclamation recognizes April 6th through 12th, 2026 as National Public Health Week in Union County and affirms the importance of protecting the health, safety, and well-being of our community. It acknowledges the Union County Public Health Department's comprehensive efforts across prevention, education, clinical services, environmental health, and emergency preparedness. The proclamation underscores core services including women's and child health, communicable disease prevention, immunizations, WIC, nutrition services, health education, dental services, environmental health, public health veterinary services, vital records, and emergency preparedness, each contributing to a healthier, more resilient community. It also recognizes the value of a strong community, partnerships, prudent planning in addressing current and emerging health concerns. Finally, it honors our public health workforce, which are amazing, and I am so grateful and proud to be their leader, and encourages residents to support efforts to safeguard community health and promote long-term well-being in Union County. Thank you.
Any questions about the proclamation? Okay. Then I will make the motion that we adopt the proclamation recognizing April 6th through the 12th, 2026 as National Public Health Week in Union County. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay. So we have a motion. All those in favor? Aye. So we're now at the business portion of our agenda. The first item of business is item 26-205, rezoning petition RZ-2026-002, Augustine Properties. I will now recognize John Ware. Welcome back, John, Senior Planner, for brief comments concerning this item.
This was a request from Augustine Properties LLC to rezone a parcel totaling a half acre appearing on the tax map as tax parcel 04198-014A on Richardson Road. The request was to rezone it from RA40 to R15 to accommodate the smaller size of the lot. They would need to have a smaller lot to be able to do a subdivision of the property. It was originally subdivided by deed, so to do a proper subdivision, they would need to change the zoning to that smaller lot size. It was a straight rezoning. The staff recommended denial based on the consistency with the comp plan, and the Land Use Board evaluated this rezoning request at its February 24th meeting. The board recommended approval on a 6-1 vote. And then at the last meeting of the commissioners, we had the public hearing. Is there any questions?
Any questions for John? No? All right. Thank you, John. You want to make a motion on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, please. I'd like to make a motion that we deny rezoning petition RZ 2026-002, the Augustine properties. Oh, Manager Matthews?
Yes.
Oh.
There should be your
There
statement of
is.
reasonableness and
Sorry.
consistency.
Thank you. It's in the pile of stuff.
Perfect. No
So,
worries.
I make a motion that we deny rezoning petition RZ-2026-002 from Augustine Properties LLC and the adoptive consistency and reasonability statement for denial.
Thank you, Madam Vice
Thank
Chair.
you.
Commissioner Balkum.
Can I ask a question, or are we too late for me to pose a question?
No, we have a motion, but it doesn't mean we can't have a discussion.
I'm just, out of curiosity, how long has it been since there was a mobile home set up on that property?
I was able to pull together a little research, maybe anticipation for some questions like that. So the original, there was an environmental health permit issued for a mobile home originally back in 1984. So it seems like sometime in 1984 is when a mobile home was sort of placed on that property. Zoning around that time allowed 2 houses on a piece of property as long as the density was okay. So it was still 1 house per acre in that zoning district. You just didn't have the restriction of 1 house per parcel. So this was a legal conforming use in 1984. Because there was already a house. I think the house that was there was built in sometime in the 1960s. I went back on Google Earth just to kind of see, how long that I could see a mobile home on that. I can't promise you it's the same one, but there was a mobile home on that property. I could go back to see the 1993 aerials on Google Earth. It was there then. It was there in March of '98, and it was there in October of 2005. Then sometime between 2013 and 2016, you can start to see some deterioration of a mobile home starting in 13, and then in 16 it's gone. Okay. And then there's not been one that has been replaced since 2016. It's almost, I think that was October of 2016, so not quite 10 years, but there's not been one that we can see that's been on site for about 10 years. There was a time when the ordinance allowed you, if there was a mobile home there that was non-conforming, which is what this would have been, if it's gone and you replace it within 6 months, you can kind of reestablish that non-conformity. But as long as you did it within the 6-month window, but it's been well past that because we're almost at 10 years at this point. So that non-conforming status is gone. It's not. You can't replace it. The lot that John was speaking about earlier, the reason they're wanting to rezone that is because it's not big enough. It doesn't meet the minimum lot size requirement in RA40. It's a half acre, but that also includes right-of-way. So there's a good bit. It's actually less than 20,000 square feet if you take out the right-of-way. That's why they're asking for R15. That lot was created, we think, based on some research that we were able to pull together today, sometime around 2004. But it was not created, they didn't submit, usually to create a lot, you submit a plat to the planning department reviews it, make sure it meets all the minimum size requirements, dimensional requirements, road frontage, things like that. When we're talking about minor subdivisions, that's what this would have been. It did not go through planning. It was done some other way, either by deed or some other method. It kind of skipped over, and that happens, but it's not. That doesn't make it a legal lot. So that's the issue that we're kind of dealing with here. So there was a mobile home there for a long time. But now it's also been gone for a long time, and then we're dealing with trying to reestablish it on a lot that wasn't created legally. If you were to rezone the property, then they could go through a minor subdivision process to sort of create the lot legally, even though it's already there. You create the lot legally, and then you could establish the mobile home again. Yes, sir.
So when was the half-acre lot purchased by Augustine Properties?
It was last year, June of 2025.
Okay. When was it surveyed out?
That's the part we're not 100% sure about. The best we can see is that something happened in January of 2004, whether that was a deed that was recorded or there was some other mechanism by which that half-acre lot was created. But it didn't go through the right kind of process. Otherwise, if that would have been submitted to the planning department for a minor subdivision review, it would have honestly been turned down because it didn't meet the minimum lot size requirement for that zoning district. So we would have said, no, this is not it's not a legal lot. You need to add some more property to it.
And the property owner that sold it owns the property that surrounds the half acre, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So has not been a house there in over, well, close to 10 years.
That's what it appears to be, yes, sir, based on some of the Google Earth images I was able to view. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Lee.
Got a question? Okay, so any other questions for Lee or for John? All right, well, if not, we've got a motion on the table for denial. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, John. The next item on our agenda is item 26-187, the South Piedmont Community College Long-Term Capital Planning. I'll now recognize Dr. Stacy Waters Bailey. I saw Beverly, and I was like, well, okay, maybe I'm recognizing Beverly.
No,
I saw that.
I am not Beverly.
President of SPCC concerning this item.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for having me tonight. I also want to take a moment and recognize the loss of Gary Sides to you and his family. So South Piedmont is certainly thinking of the entire family and the commissioners. My name is Stacy Waters Bailey. I do reside in Union County, and I am the president of South Piedmont Community College. I stand before you tonight not asking for anything, but providing you with an update of what we have going on at the college and what our future needs will be as we continue to grow. And I'm going to give you possible solutions. Don't just come with saying here's the problems. So just to give you some perspective, the college is on a huge upward growth trend. Since 2020-2021 academic year, we have grown substantially. Last year, we were the second fastest growing North Carolina community college. So we were the second out of 58 community colleges located in this state. Since 2016-2017 academic year, we have seen a 24% enrollment growth jump. And right now, we're serving approximately 12,216 students annually. And as you can see just by the line, most of our big jumps have been really since 22-23, and we're in an upward trend. I'll even just tell you right now, summer enrollment is up over 30%. So if you have people or know people who are taking summer classes, tell them to get there and enroll quickly because we are filling up. We do value the partnership with Union County. Obviously, we cannot do the work we do without our partners here in this community. We have beautiful buildings. We are currently building 2 buildings right now. One is our aseptic training facility that will work with our biotech programs or employers in the community to support that workforce pipeline. So that is a very, very specialized building. And we have our Ascend 704 building being built as we speak, and that is going to support the economic community here in Union County. It will support new businesses, current businesses, small businesses, in terms of a place to operate, shared workspace, as well as having a 500-person conference center that can be used by the community as well. even with all the investments that are being made, we also believe we are good stewards of the money. We have been very cautious and careful. We have been very diligent to ensure that what we have done with taxpayer dollars is done in a smart and efficient way so that we are capitalizing on every dollar that is afforded to us. As you heard before, we're serving more students than ever. 50% increase in online. We're seeing a lot of that from our younger students who are in the high school and dual enrollment programs, as well as our adult students who are working full-time during the day and trying to take some classes online. We've seen 37% increase in course sections. These are in-person sections as well as labs. That is huge because that is what is really serving, again, our early college in Union County, but also the individuals who are seeking to transfer and/or are in technical programs that require hands-on learning. Right now, we account for 13% of the high school students who are in dual enrollment programs are actually participating. I would love to see that number higher, but right now we're at 13% in getting our high schoolers with some college education before they actually graduate high school. And so that equates to over 2,000 students right now of high schoolers we're serving annually. And so this is, I don't even have to tell you how great that is for our local students, but also their families to know that they're getting free college credit before they ever walk out the door of high school. And so you can see there we are doing great things. But not only are we getting the students out the door, we're getting students in the door, we're getting them out the door. This year, we were awarded and recognized as an Aspen Top 200 community college. That means we're one of the top 200 community colleges in the entire nation. There are over 1,000 community colleges across our great nation. Our graduation rate has increased from 35% to 53%. Again, they're actually finishing their degree. We're not bringing them in and taking their money and putting them in a worse off situation. We're actually getting them out the door with a credential in hand. We've seen an increase in associate degrees. That's students going directly into a four-year university, many of them coming back right here to this county to serve as teachers and accountants and other great jobs that we have here. Our course success rate has gone from 84% to 90%. That means 90% of our students are getting a C or better in their course. So they are actually getting the credit. And our course retention rate has gone from 90 to 94%. That means students are not withdrawing or dropping from the course. They're completing the course with a successful grade. So if you really think about that, we have increased our graduation rate by 17%, so double digits. Obviously, we partner very closely with our employers here in this county. Actually, 81% of our students, once they graduate with a credential, they are leaving South Piedmont and employed within 1 year. We're also seeing an average wage of just over $56,000. So we're talking about a family-sustaining wage for these students that are going to be paying the bills and paying taxes here locally. We have strong employer demand. I have employers right now asking me to add additional programming to our college and expanding what we have. And so we really do partner right here in our community. In terms of challenges, capacity is our biggest challenge because our growth has really taken off in the past few years. In-person demand courses have really increased. A lot of that is high school driven, as well as the number of students who are realizing they can graduate from high school and come to South Piedmont and get their first 2 years at a much lower cost to them and their family than going straight into a four-year university. And we have many agreements with four-year universities that allow direct transfer where students do not lose any of their credit. So we have limited classroom capacity because of the increased demand for in-person classes. We do have parking constraints because obviously if we've got more students coming, we have more students driving to campus. And we have limited space for workforce programs at this time. And by that I mean the lab spaces, large lab spaces for industrial manufacturing, welding, things along that, automotive, things along that line where you need very specialized spaces to learn. And then we have honestly exhausted our office spaces, and we are looking at other ways to make that work. And so in the short term, what we are doing to make this work for our community is we've asked some of our employees to work remotely so that we can free up spaces. So if they are not a student-facing, if they are more of a data-centered job, they are working remotely. Full-time employees are sharing offices where offices are large enough to add an additional employee. We also have employees working in a 20-plus-year-old modular unit with no restrooms. It's obviously not ideal, but it's what we're doing to make sure we can serve those students who are coming to us. And we're relying very heavily on high-flex classes, and high-flex classes means students can either attend virtually or in person, and so that we can have larger classes with one instructor so that those students can choose what works for them, but also works for us for space to be able to hold as many students in classes as possible. One of the other things I do want to bring up, and it's a discussion I've had with Union County Public Schools, is that our early college is located in what we call the A building. This is a building where we have a conference center, so people come in and out of that building from the community all day, every day. We do not know who goes in and out of that building because it is a conference center space. That means they are in a building with high schoolers, and because of the design of that building, we are not really able to lock down the early college in a way that keeps those high schoolers safe like you would in a true high school setting. And I don't know if you've driven by lately, but the high schoolers, those early college students, are playing at the road. They are playing soccer and other activities at the road, which is also not ideal, but it's right outside of the building in which they call their high school. So in the future, this is your in the future, we would love to build an education building. The specs we have put together is it's about a 58,000 square foot building costing a little over $34 million. But this would be both a classroom building and an early college building, meaning it would be built in such a way that we could lock down the high school students to keep them safe. We could also keep part of the building open so students could ebb and flow into general classroom spaces in that building. This is also, the idea would be to put it further back onto the campus so that the students, again, are not playing at the road, they're not hanging out at the road, but they're also safe and secure. The other benefit is where we would hope to put this building in the future. It would empty out onto Rogers Road. That means new drivers as well as buses could then take advantage of the light at Rogers Road and Old Charlotte Highway, which, as we know, new drivers and buses, we all want to keep everybody safe, and that light would be much better than having to turn out onto the Old Charlotte Highway without a light. The other piece that would help us with our expansion is a public safety training facility. And this would be a 55,000 square foot building, just under 31 million to 30.6 million. This would house our BLET programs, basic law enforcement training, as well as emergency medical training. It would include public safety training. We would have a fitness facility so that we could do our their training for their mat room, so their hand combat, being able to fight. and also learning how to do their PT on-site without having to go to one facility, then shower, change, and then drive back to the campus. So it cuts down on that driving back and forth for our students. This also, by building this building, allows us to use what is the Braswell building, which is currently shared by public safety programs as well as our health programs. It would turn Braswell into a dedicated health building, health sciences building, so we can expand our health programs, which I am being asked to do, to add more to help fill the pipeline for our Atrium and Novant. So those two projects that would help ease some of the congestion that we have at our college would total about $65 million and would add about 113,000 square feet. With that, we can spread out a little more, but also more importantly for me, it also means we keep those high schoolers that we are responsible for on the campus safe, and that is a big concern for me. This not only benefits the college, it also benefits the county. It increases the classroom capacity so we can absorb more of our growing student population. It improves the safety for our early college students. It's going to expand our ability to continue and enhance our offerings for safety training for our county. Also expand health program capacity, which is being asked of us, and then support workforce development, a direct pipeline into work here in the county. And we will then, as our number of residents are growing, we'll be able to continue to support them in other classes as well. You know, we are growing rapidly, which is a good thing. And we're producing strong outcomes. Students are actually going to work, they're getting jobs, and they're getting a good paycheck. And we're helping to fill the pipeline for our employers locally. And we're reaching facility capacity. We are, but we are doing things we can right now to support that. And that's why I say this is not an ask, it's more of here's what's on the horizon. And so you can begin to think about what needs would be needed in the future to support our learning beyond the K-12 environment. So any questions, I'd be happy to entertain.
I've actually got a couple of questions. So you mentioned that, I think it was maybe the first slide, maybe the second, but SPCC is the second fastest growing in the North Carolina community college system, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how many total community colleges are there in our state?
58.
Yeah, so we're number 2 out of 58.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
And you showed a stat too in your slides about 12,216 students, I believe.
Yes.
Now, is that just in Union County, or is that also?
That's Union County.
Okay. Okay. One other question for you. When you were talking about preparing the county's workforce, do we have any number, and I know that you had a percentage there, but I guess my question is that, do we know what percentage of the graduates are employed in Union County?
That's harder to get. We can get from the state that 81% are employed from the labor statistics. Getting exactly what county that they are employed in is a little harder.
Sure.
Unfortunately. I wish we could. It would be a great data point to have.
Okay. Any other questions?
And I would put that's in North Carolina. We know 81%. So if they're going into South Carolina, we wouldn't know.
Right. Thank you.
More of a comment. The dual enrollment program that you partner with UCPS with, my son took part in that because he refused AP classes, and highly, highly recommend it, even though all of his credits did not transfer over at the time. This was several years ago before your tenure. It was a great thing. It really knocked a lot of time off for him, and if he decides to go back to get his master's degree, because of all the dual enrollment credit, It would only take him one semester. So kudos to you and to UCPS for this program. I hope more people take advantage of it because it's an awesome, awesome program.
It's such a important piece of education, and it's such a valuable asset to the county. It really is, and to the families here.
I had just a curiosity question. I haven't been to the campus recently, but I drive past it a lot.
I'd love
and
to have you.
I do see some of the young people out there enjoying the nice spring grass and playing ball. I wanted to ask, because with the growth and the enrollment increasing so much, I know that there was a lot of training in the parking lot. And it seems like there was a need that came to us a couple of years ago. Is that training still occurring in that parking lot, or have you found a place for that?
We have found a place for that. I believe you're referring to the CDL driving.
And the
Yes.
motorcycles?
And motorcycles is still taking place there. It largely takes place on the weekends, like on Saturdays.
Okay.
CDL is now at our Polkton campus in Anson
Okay.
County. Quite frankly, it's a slower pace in terms of new drivers getting out on the road than Old Charlotte Highway. So we moved it out there, and I think it's good for the safety of new drivers of an 18-wheeler.
Yeah, when you were talking about the numbers and needing more space, the first thing I thought about was, do you have enough parking? Because I know that you have training out there in the parking lot, and we had talked about that 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you've just been to an event there, yeah, you better get there early.
You better. If you come in, I mean, we have had days where they are parking on the grass. It's just what we've had to do. And we, like I said, we'll work that out and work through that. But no, and also to free up parking space, we have moved the CDL program.
Okay, very good. Thank you for answering that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. All right, the next item of business is item 26-186, Union County Public Schools 2026 bond referendum request. I will now recognize Chairman Jimmy Benchin for this item. Welcome, my friend.
God bless you, my friend. And I want you to know that as you all gave your comments, my heart was heavy with you all, and we stand with you all in the loss of our great friend. And to Dr. Bailey, our daughter is a graduate of South Piedmont Community College. That's one of the degrees she has. Colin Moore and the team, they're going to come and do the heavy lifting. But I just wanted to come and to say tonight that we appreciate our Union County Board of Commissioners. We appreciate all the work that you all have done down through the years in supporting us and all of the referendums that we have had for the students and the faculty here in the great county of Union County, North Carolina. So I just wanted to come and personally just let you know that we stand with you. We know that we'll have our, these and that's, but we are a true friend and buddy of the Union County Board of County Commissioners. And with that, Colin Moore and the team, they're going to come with the presentation for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Chairman and Board of Commissioners. I'm Colin Moore. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for Administration and Operations for Union County Public Schools. I also have with me tonight our Director of Construction, Sarah Emel. She's our Director of Construction and Planning, and also our Chief Finance Officer, Shauna McLam, if you have questions that I may cannot answer. So in March, the Union County Public Schools Board of Education approved a resolution requesting that the Board of County Commissioners place a bond referendum on the November 2026 general election ballot. I'm here tonight just to give you a little bit more information about the projects that are included on that resolution. You can see here the summary of the four items. There's really three projects, but four items. We are requesting funding for construction at Parkwood High School, and I will get into each of these projects a little bit more specifically in a few moments. And a design for the Piedmont Middle School addition, we typically call that Phase 1. We typically call Phase 1 a design piece and Phase 2 a construction piece. We have requesting funding for the design and construction of the Wolf School, and then we typically include about 3% contingency and management as part of the line items when we typically ask for bond projects. At Parkwood High School, if you remember in 2024, voters approved a bond request then that allowed for us to do pre-construction at Parkwood High School. We are in the design phase of that now. We're going through programming, anticipate having some schematics toward middle to the end of summer. We are requesting, as part of this 2026 bond, that we receive funding for the construction of that work at Parkwood High School. We're designing between a 1,500 and 1,600 capacity school, have an anticipation of expanding some of our CTE opportunities at that school. We are going to utilize the existing stadium and some of the baseball fields, softball, tennis court areas. Our plan is to save most of those, and so we won't have that typical cost of where you're having to buy or construct new athletic facilities. We're anticipating about a 36-month timeline after we finish completion, after we get permitting. The second project that we are asking for funding on is, as I said, the design and pre-construction of Piedmont Middle School. So we have three of our middle schools have a floor plan that's very similar. Piedmont Middle School, Parkwood Middle School, Sun Valley Middle School. We have plans in our long-range plan to reconfigure some of those areas. They have what we call pods. Each of those rooms has 3 different pods or pie-shaped rooms. So our proposal is to modify those. At Parkwood, we would only do 2 of the 3 pods because we've already done one, and we've seen how successful we can be with doing that and how we can still manage to utilize the space. As part of those renovations in the long-range plan at those 3 middle schools, we would also do a cafeteria renovation and expansion. We would add an auxiliary gym to each one of those schools. We would do some upgrades to the plumbing, mechanical, electrical systems and the ceilings in the buildings, and do some overall improvements throughout the school. At Piedmont Middle School, in anticipation of some upcoming capacity and some growth in that area, we would also propose constructing approximately 9,000 square foot classroom addition. It would be classroom addition and support space, and then about 1,000 square foot addition to the cafeteria, to the dining area. So again, the funding for this project would be just for the design and pre-construction. We're not requesting any construction funding at this time. So when the Wolf School was originally built, it was designed to be expanded. We've actually have a set of drawings that shows a sketch of where the expansion would be to the gymnasium. So the money requested for the Wolf School is for addition to the cafeteria, an addition to the gymnasium, and also about a 4 classroom addition to the classroom wing. This is going to increase the capacity there by about 40 students. Apologize, I forgot to move my slide. And then our last request, again, is for the contingency and management, just to deal with unforeseen conditions that may come along during construction, cover the cost of overruns, and then just changes in scope and other items as we need to. So as I said, we typically put about 3% in there for these. And that's my presentation. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
I do. Quick question. Can you tell us what the current capacity is at Parkwood High School, Piedmont Middle, and Wolf? Do you have those numbers, sir?
I do have, sir, you remember those off the top of your head?
I have 2 of them. I'll have to, that's a lot. So,
That's okay.
So Piedmont Middle School is currently roughly 971. The expansion the expansion would get us similar in nature to Sun Valley, so around 1188 would be the model that we would be following there. Wolf School's design capacity and construction capacity as it exists is 140. We currently have about 110 students there utilizing all of that space. We have to modify those capacities based on the student needs and equipment.
Yeah,
So
that's a little different.
It is a hard one to kind of say how many are we really going to gain. So we
Yes.
can say safely 24 to 40 students based on those needs. Parkwood High School, the current Parkwood High School is 1376 as a seating capacity.
Okay.
Did I get all the ones you were looking for? I'm sorry.
And what's it going up to?
It's going to a 15 to 1600 capacity.
Okay.
We don't have that cleanly defined because some of those CTE opportunities we're talking about will skew that finalized number. And so we hope to be finished with that programming next week to have a cleaner number of where that falls.
Okay, just for clarity, the Parkwood, you said is 1376, is that the current number of students are enrolled? Or is that the capacity?
That's the capacity, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, how many do we have enrolled in those schools? Do we know that?
I do, if you can just let me grab
Yes,
that
ma'am.
report, sure.
Thank you.
While she's doing that, are there other questions?
My questions are kind of what she was asking,
Oh,
so.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good, you're good.
Thought I had it on my phone.
Okay, so my numbers are reflective of the 40th day number, if
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So Wolf School had a total of 110 students on the 40th day.
Okay.
Piedmont Middle School had 899 students on day 40. And Parkwood High School had, it's right smack in the middle, 1,066.
Okay. I have more questions. Can I continue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Mr. Moore, I've got a couple more questions. Looking into the future, UCPS is going to ask for bonds every 2 years for the next 8 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us what's on the plate for 28, 30, and then 32?
Yeah, I think you should have a
Do I
copy
have
of the
it?
long-range
Okay.
plan in your packet.
Okay, sorry, missed it. Okay, all right. And total, it's going to be approximately 643 million over the 8 years,
That
correct?
sounds correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And our intention with these bond, with this bond in particular, is not addressing capacity issues, it's dealing with aging structures. The Parkwood building is going on almost 60 to 70 years old.
Yeah, no, Piedmont, middle and high school, my husband went there, I went there, our son went there, so we're familiar with the layout of the old schools, the old
Yep.
pie shapes and the school itself, yeah. And Parkwood and Sun Valley were very similar.
The interesting thing about Sun Valley Middle, though, and correct me if my memory's wrong, but I just recalled there was a cafeteria expansion. It is larger at Sun Valley.
Correct.
And Piedmont Middle's cafeteria never got that expansion.
Correct.
And so, when my son was there, that was a challenge, with a smaller cafeteria and having to move so many different, 3 levels of grades through at one time. Or over several lunch periods
Yep.
that almost lasted half the day.
Yeah. Start lunch early and finish lunch late.
So, last time I was on the Board of Education, Jerome McKibben, Dr. McKibben came in and did projections. What is his projections for these areas? Do we have that?
We don't have specifically his, we have another demographer that's doing our reports, but
Okay.
Sarah's been
Yes.
working very closely with them.
All right, thank you.
So is there a particular year that you were looking?
Well, just the ones for, the,
Through 32. So Piedmont Middle in the 32-33 school year. Is at 908. Parkwood High School is at 989. And the Wolf School, we do not create a capacity number for or a tenure.
it's a different.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Moore, I'm glad that you clarified, because that was going to be my question, is what exactly is driving, the bond request for a new Parkwood, whether that would be capacity or conditions? And so it sounds as though it's conditions.
A lot of it is conditions, yes, but we are also mindful of the growth in the Waxhaw area, so we want to be mindful of that as we project capacities.
And when you're talking about the growth in Waxhaw, are you, I'm just assuming that Cuthbertson plays into this as well, correct?
It would, yes.
What are our numbers like in Cuthbertson, and do we have any projections there?
We do. Cuthbertson, I'm going to go with the high school.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that fair? So Cuthbertson High School is currently at 100.6% capacity. If I go out to that 2032, 2033 year, they do start to see a plateaued decline in enrollment just with the build out of the area to 1596, which would be more of that comfortable building optimization level.
When was, just for our knowledge, when was Cuthbertson built? What year? Do we know?
I think it was 2008, 2007,
Yes.
2008.
Okay. Okay. One other question for me: do we have a loose plan for? I'm assuming that Parkwood would sort of follow that model, like what Forest Hills cluster did, correct? Where we're going to eventually build a new high school there, and then we're going to remodel the existing high school currently. Is that sort of the loose plan here?
There are a lot of plans on the table. We really haven't dove deep into that just yet.
Right.
I think it's safe to say Parkwood Middle School is not probably as bad a shape as East Union, because the East Union School was very old. So that was our intentions, and to get them on the same campus. But there are several options on the table that we're considering, but we don't have an answer for that at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to make one comment. Just to put parents' mind at ease, these schools are safe.
Oh,
Your
absolutely.
kids are safe. Yes, because hearing that something's aging out, they think that it equates to something else. No, those children are safe.
They're
Yes,
very
that's,
expensive to maintain.
that is very much UCP radar to make sure that those babies
Oh, yeah,
are safe.
Yeah, there's kids are in no unsafe way. This is just dealing with very hard to maintain.
Yes.
Expensive.
Very expensive to maintain.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Balk.
And you may have already touched on this, and if you have, I apologize. What's the capacity level of Piedmont?
High school or middle, sir?
Give me both, please.
Sure. The capacity of Piedmont Middle School is 988. The capacity of Piedmont High School is 1,600.
Wow. And do you feel like it is at 100% capacity?
Both of those facilities, so as I mentioned, we have about 917 students. When you get to that greater than 85% capacity, you do have to make decisions as a building administrator regarding some of those elective programs versus them having that traditional space. Now, it's not that they're over capacity, but it does make it a little bit more difficult for them to have that flexibility in the building.
Okay.
And we are seeing a very slow incremental increase in the Piedmont area that it will continue over time.
And I'm looking for a percentage number.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the percent that it is the capacity today with you is 91%, sir.
91%. For Piedmont Middle?
That was Piedmont Middle, yes, sir. And Piedmont High School is at 78.4.
78.4. How about Parkwood?
Parkwood High School, as it currently is 77.5.
Okay. Okay.
I wanted to ask a question. So when you go to your website under facilities, department facilities, are the current capacity numbers for this school year, is this current information that you've been providing us tonight, is that spreadsheet on your website?
This one is not, no.
I would
I
really
will
like
get it posted for
to
you.
get that updated, because I went there a couple of weeks ago just to see how the 40-day numbers had gone this year.
Yes.
And it looked like a very old spreadsheet. So I would really encourage you to get this year's data on the website.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
would, it would help us a lot.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that's done tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Another document that I think is very helpful for the schools, there's a document that shows what year all 53 schools were built and what year there were additions made or, you know, any renovations. And I think as the community really needs to know the age of these schools. Because a lot of people may think that, you know, the Piedmont edition is new, but it could be 25 or 30 years old. So those two documents are something I like to see, and I think it would help the community a lot too.
All right, Commissioner Balkin.
I have one more question. It may be a little bit random. But like Piedmont, when I went to Piedmont, the campus was sort of sprawling. Do y'all intend to keep at those high schools sort of a sprawling type campus, or do you bring everything under one roof and
Yeah,
go
our intentions would be to keep everything under one roof, as much as we possibly can, yeah.
It's very difficult to effectively maintain temperature, humidity control when you have all of those outlay buildings. So yes, we would, the under one roof is your facilities maintaining.
So you may go 3 stories high? Would it be something like that?
We're really not that far along here on this one yet, but
Parkwood, is that the same plan for Parkwood? I'm sorry, is that the same plan for Parkwood?
to keep it under one roof?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So
But I think it would be-
It would go up, not out.
Correct. It would be a multi-story building, much like Forest Hills, the new Forest Hills, and East Elementary for that matter.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website right now, and I think right now, the data does go through 2032 to 33, and it shows a lot of the schools that are, you know, projected capacity concerns. And Weddington Middle and High continue to be, you know, a consistent challenge. So I'm almost concerned that we're not talking about Weddington. But just something we can talk about later off, you know, other than tonight. But I know when I looked at this a couple of weeks ago, I was concerned about Weddington Middle and Weddington High, especially with the 10-year projections.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is item 26-227, that's Union County Jail construction options. I'll now recognize our county manager, Brian Matthews, for comments concerning this item.
Certainly. So I did have a slide, but to be perfectly honest, I think that, you know, Beverly's presentation is going to actually have a lot more detail when she gets into that. So I would certainly ask the board that when we get to that portion for her presentation, we can talk about the options, and then the board can give us some direction from that. So in the interest of time, I'll turn it to the expert.
Well, in that case, I mean, that's the next item, so we're just gonna, we're gonna roll right into item 26-212, that's the November 2026 bond referendum request and financing debt modeling. I'll now finally recognize Beverly Lyles, Finance Director, for comments on this item.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. As you are aware, each year we go through a capital planning process, and we also include our outside partners such as South Piedmont and the schools. And so you've heard from both of them tonight, and as you're aware, you've already given us direction to put a jail and a bond referendum with several options for you to pick from. And so when we look at the long-term financing strategies for the county, we look at all types of debt. And the general obligation bond debt, of course, is the cheapest debt that we can issue in the state of North Carolina with our AAA bond rating. So it's ideal to use that as a funding source. if it is so chosen by the commissioners. So tonight, we will walk through what that bond referendum process looks like, where we're at in the time frame, what the required legislative language is to go on the actual ballot in November, and we'll go through our debt model assumptions only for Union County Public Schools debt and the county debt for the jail. We did not include any debt modeling for South Piedmont because they are not actually requesting a bond referendum request this year. And then we will look at the jail tax rate impacts as well. So to begin with, this is the bond referendum process. We're here at the April 20th meeting where you've received the formal request for bond referendums from both our education partners and as well as county staff for a jail. We went through this actual timeline with you all at the board retreat, but just to remind you, we are in the home stretch, and this is the meeting we will be asking for direction to start preparing all of the documents that are required to get to the Board of Elections by their deadline to actually place the bond referendum on the November ballot. So when we show our debt modeling, we show you all two different rates, and the reason for that is because of the required session law bond referendum language that was put into place in 2022. And what that requires us to do is show our citizens transparency as what the total estimated cumulative cost of that debt will be over the life of the bond. For us, we use 20-year debt, general obligation bonds, and the language requires us to use the highest interest rate that we have seen on a similar bond issued in North Carolina for the same time period. So that's why we show you the highest rate, and then we show you our true planning rate for debt modeling for what we actually expect to see in the market when we go to issue that debt. And then we're required to show you what is that tax rate impact to a property owner for every $100,000 worth of property tax value that they have. And then we give that to them in an actual tax rate impact and a dollar amount for what they would expect to see increased on their tax bill if bonds are approved. Is there any questions about this language before we move forward? So when we build our debt model, of course, we have to have assumptions that go into those based on the economic factors that we know today. And so for all of our debt models today, this assumes that if we take a bond referendum this year and it passes, that those property tax impacts would not take place until fiscal year 2028 at the earliest. The interest rate that we're required to use based on the legislative required language for the highest interest rate that we've seen over a 20-year period is the 5.34%. We then model the county's planning rate at 5% based on the markets that we're seeing today for bond issuance, which is lower than what we've seen over a 20-year period. The debt models also assume all 20-year general obligation bonds with level principal amortization with the first 6 months of interest in the fiscal year following the issuance, which would mean if these are approved in 2028, we would only have 6 months of interest payments due. You wouldn't get the full annual impact to that until the following year in 2029. The debt models are built on the current penny value for ad valorem for FY26 is $6 million. As you're aware, we're going through the budget process now, and we are looking at that closely to determine where we will end up for 27. We build into our debt models a growth factor for that. So for FY27 and beyond, we are being very conservative with this growth factor compared to what we may come in at based on what we're seeing for increased values. But we've built in a growth factor of 3.75%. And then we have service charges that are associated with debt cost, and we have increased those annually by 3%. And I think it's important to note our debt models do not assume, because we have not been given direction as staff, to utilize any current unassigned fund balance that you were presented when we presented the audit to you all for what's actually available in the education debt fund or the education budgetary fund or any unassigned fund balance for that matter. We haven't been given any direction on how to utilize that as a funding source today. For our county model, we have only assumed a GO bond issuance for a jail. We have not factored in any other type of financing based on the previous direction we received from you all back in August. The education model, as you are aware, we have to factor in the restricted sales tax articles that are restricted for use for only education, capital outlay, or debt service. So we have factored that in at a growth level of 2.5% for each year following fiscal year 2026 as a funding source. And then we also utilize the lottery revenue for debt service payments for education. And we are not really seeing a growth factor in that. People really aren't buying a lot of lottery tickets. So if you want to help that out, maybe go buy some lottery tickets. But we're seeing a revenue growth there of 1%. Any questions about the assumptions that we put into our debt models before we move forward? So this is the debt model for Union County Public Schools only. As you're aware, we have an education debt fund, and we split that out between the schools in South Piedmont. So you're only going to see the Union County Public Schools portion. You also have these models printed out for you on the 11 by 17 paper if that's easier for you to follow along and actually see. I just want to briefly go over how the debt model works. I'm not going to go through every single one of these numbers, but on the right-hand side, we take the existing debt service that we have today for all outstanding debt for Union County Public Schools, and we drop into that next column, what is our proposed overall debt service cost for the bond request? And this illustrates the long-term plan for the school. So we've dropped in that long-term plan over the next 8 years that you asked about. And in the middle, this takes all the revenue sources that are available. That is your dedicated tax rate from your property taxes for education today for Union County Public Schools is 3.02 cents. And then we factor in the lottery revenue and we factor in the sales tax revenue. And based on all those debt model assumptions that we just went over, those revenues grow each year based on the economic factors that we're seeing today. And then after we drop in the proposed debt service, it tells us from a cash flow standpoint, what are your additional needs for any additional bond request? And that equivalent tax rate impact you can see in column L for each one. And this particular model is the required language for the bond referendum language that has to go on the ballot. So this is the highest interest rate at the 5.34%. And so we've layered in, as I said, the long-term plan for Union County Public Schools here that we're illustrating. And the next model that we show is at the county planning rate. So of course you would expect the equivalent tax rate to go down because this is the true planning rate at the 5% rate that we're seeing in the market today that we feel like would be a conservative number for us to issue bonds at. If there's no questions about the actual model, we'll actually go to the summary of the, okay. And just to point out, I wanted to illustrate on this chart here, this really gives a clear indication of our debt service payments today for Union County Public Schools. Today for FY26, we're at about $43 million. And if you look at this chart, you can clearly see as time goes along and we get to like 2030 and 2031, a lot of our debt service payments are falling off. And that's because a lot of those newer schools that were built, like Weddington and Cupperson and Marvin, during that huge growth factor for the county, we're now starting to see those bonds mature off. And so that debt is becoming obsolete. So when we talk about long-term planning and strategic financial planning, when we look at this, it really illustrates as we look into the future the debt affordability that could be there as we get into those out years compared to the amount of debt service payments we're paying today.
Can I ask a question real quick before we move this? So this is where we are today, not showing their request.
That is correct. This is current debt service payments that we're now agreed to based on the bond issuance that we have done. So you'll expect to see this as a budget request each year. This is what the current outstanding debt is today. There's about $282 million of principal outstanding for Union County Public Schools, and of that, the last two issuance that we did is about $160 million of that outstanding. So the rest of it is really the older debt that we're going to start to see fall off a lot quicker.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a summary. Tonight, of course, we want you to focus on the 2026 bond request because that's what they have came and presented to you. This chart just illustrates what is the required legislative language versus our planning rate. And so for the 2026 bond request, the financing amount was around $173 million. And so the total estimated debt service for the required legislative interest rate is around $270 million, which is estimated a tax rate increase of 0.25 cents. So the voter would see on the actual bond referendum an annual increase based on a $100,000 value of property of $2.50. Now, we like to show you what the average homeowner would actually see, because the average value of a home is about $400,000, so they would see around a $10 increase based on that higher interest rate. And then for our planning rate, of course, it drops down based on that interest rate being a little bit lower. And so I'll stop here and see if you have any questions before we move forward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, so again, what I'd like to make sure the board sees is that while the tax rate impact for 26 and even some of the other years is not significantly high, a quarter of a penny at the most, a little less than a quarter of a penny, it still is a rate increase, and you would be doing a tax rate increase every 2 years in order to accommodate this, because there isn't enough funding right now to pay for all of this without a rate increase. I will say, and as Beverly has mentioned, the debt is starting to fall off. We're starting to see those payments reduce, and it is entirely possible that you could see in 2028, if you delayed any kind of action, no tax rate increase or tax rate impact. I can't promise that. I can say possibly, simply because we are paying off debt. We're making decisions to buy down some of those expenses that we have. Again, just want you to recognize that there is an impact we'll have to deal with depending on your decision.
Did you have a question? Beverly, I've got some questions. Brian, thank you for that. I think that's important information to have. So if I'm understanding what you were saying there, what we're looking at here would assume a quarter of a penny increase for 2026, assuming that this goes to referendum.
Correct.
And the voters approve it.
Correct.
If what I'm hearing you say is correct, then as we pay down debt, obviously, we have a chance that if we look at this in 2028, that there may not be an impact to the tax rate.
That is correct. Now, I want to clarify that doesn't count if you were to do, say, Parkwood and the request for 28 together.
Right.
That's not what that would do. There would be a rate impact if you put those two together. But if you were to shift and delay a project, you could possibly have no rate impact, possibly.
Okay. Thank you for that. Beverly, I think you showed it on one of the slides where I had to pick up my glasses to read.
This one?
Yes. So if I'm looking at this correctly, what we're looking at here, if we're looking at the totals, is this the total existing debt service that we have for schools currently?
So the first column, column B, shows your existing school debt service, which includes principal and interest payments for each year.
Okay.
So as you can see in 26, our total debt service payments for the school is around $43.4 million. And as time goes along, and you look at 27 and you keep going down each year, that amount decreases based on the prior year's principal being paid down. And when you get to 2031, for an example, today we're paying $43 million. When you get to 2031, we're only paying $25 million. There's a significant decrease year over year compared to the current year.
Right. But, I mean, that very first column, this is at where it stands today.
Yes.
So where it stands today is we have $412 million in debt service, existing debt service.
Correct.
Okay.
In principal and interest, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what column C does is drops in the total long-term plan for Union County Public Schools. So for their entire $600-something million request for principal and interest, we would be paying around $981 million.
So close to $1 billion.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Beverly at this point? Beverly, how much of the tax rate that How much of our tax rate, just for general public consumption here, is dedicated to, say, the debt service that we owe here?
3.02 cents.
Okay. And how much would include, say, just operational funding for UCPS currently?
So their operational funding is 26.01 cents.
And our current tax rate?
Put me
43?
on the hook here. I didn't know that. 38.
I think it's 43.42.
43.
Yeah, 43.42.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Any further questions about the school request before we move to the jail?
No, I think we're good. Go ahead.
All right, so moving forward, we have only chosen one debt model for the jail to show you here as an example. I didn't put all of the 13 pages in here for the debt models, or you really wouldn't be able to see by the end of the night. So same concept, current existing debt goes into column B, proposed county debt goes into column C. This example shows a $200 million issuance at the required legislative language. And as you can tell, we don't have as much debt on our side on the county, so we're not able to free up as much capacity from a debt affordability standpoint for a $200 million request. This illustrates the proposed debt service cost for $200 million would be around $312 million and would require a 3.11 cent tax rate increase for this. This is what we have referred to as option 3 in your jail packages that you had. So this is just an example of one of the models. You have all of the jail models printed out in front of you in your package. If you have any questions about those, I'll be glad to go through those, but we do have a summary of all of those on the next slide here. Again, this is just the 5% rate compared to the higher rate. And then this chart actually illustrates our county debt and how, as I said before, it is not falling off near as fast as the school debt rate is, because we really didn't issue a lot of debt in the early 2000s on the county side. We've issued new debt more recently with the Sheriff's Office Admin Building and the Emergency Services Complex, but in the early 2000s, we were not adding on a lot of county debt at that time. And so for the jail options, you've had 4 options that you've been presented, and I'll let Brian speak to the options.
All right, very good. So again, you have 4 options there. I do want to go back to, and Beverly mentioned that you have the models for all of them. She just didn't show them on the screen. We're not pushing you in any one direction. She's just showing you the impact. Obviously, I want to stress to the public that I believe this board understands that a new jail is needed. A general obligation bond is a method to pay for it in the least expensive manner. That's what we're looking for. So we're hopeful, obviously, that the public will recognize that and make a decision to vote for it. But if for some reason it does not pass, doesn't mean we don't need a jail. And we'll have to figure out how to fund that. So I do want to stress that this is a funding mechanism, the least expensive funding mechanism.
And Brian, just to touch on that, and that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's because we get a lower interest rate if we have a successful GO bond.
That is correct, yes, sir, absolutely. Yeah, so as you see here, your options, you have an option 1 is a 400-bed jail with your reuse of the existing facility up to 100. Option 2 is a 500-bed jail, again a 600-bed core. And reuse of the existing facility for overflow. Option 3 is a 500-bed jail with a 600-bed core and reuse of the sheriff's admin building, not the jail portion itself. And then option 4 is a 500-bed jail with 600 core with no reuse at all. Basically, none of the admin, none of the actual jail portion. In talking with the sheriff, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it's my understanding that option 3 was their preferred option. They certainly would continue and enjoy continuing to use that sheriff's admin building. There are some costs that can be removed out of the original options that would be done at some later date and don't necessarily have to be programmed into the bond. So if you see that 200 million, that 200 million is if you reduce the actual bond amount. That's the total we would ask for option 3. And there's some amount, I don't have that in front of me, but there's an amount we would put towards some renovation and some repair work to that admin building to continue to operate that. Demolition of the existing jail does not have to be done right away. The board could certainly make a decision to wait. Now, what we would have to decide is, do you want to continue to allow it to sort of be somewhat operational? In other words, are we going to keep the water and the lights and, pay the bills for it? And so at some point in time, you might use it for some purpose. Just understand that's a cost we need to add back into the budget. If you essentially shut it down, you turn off the lights, turn off all the water, that's different. We obviously wouldn't put any money in the budget to run it, and then at some point in time, we would tear it down and we'd budget for that. So those are all options. We do kind of need to understand what you want to do depending on which one of these options you choose. But that facility does not have to be torn down immediately if you choose, option 2, option 3, whichever one of the options you select.
And I think it's also probably important to understand too that this is just our financing amount, right?
That's correct.
That's not operational. This is capital expense.
That is a very good point. And we did receive a report from our consultants that did the work for us. I thought they did a very good job of trying to look into future costs for that. And they were very clear that your most expensive cost is operations, because that doesn't go away. That's permanent. When you build the building, once it's built, it's built. But when you have to operate it, you have to add your detention officers, your staff, you have to pay for the utilities. So that was significant as far as the increase. I don't have that amount in front of us. We do have that study, and if the board would like that information, make sure you get it. But you're absolutely correct. This is just to build it, not to run it.
I think we may have that on the slide that you guys did.
And while Beverly's pulling that up, the reason why I mentioned that is because, to some, option 1 may look appealing because, you're still utilizing a building that's already been built. However, assuming that we build this jail facility, then now you have operational expense for 2 facilities instead of 1. And you're running 2 jails instead of 1. So the operational funding for like COs, that's one thing to take into consideration. You're talking about the light bill, you're talking about gas or what have you. So there's a lot of other cost associated that you're not seeing. This is simply capital brick and mortar expense.
That's correct. And you make a very good point. In fact, that was one of the sheriff's argument, that the cost as well as the management of 2 separate facilities would be extremely challenging.
Yeah.
So this is the slide that actually has the staffing and operational costs broken down for each one of those options.
Thank you, Beverly.
Yes, so we actually have an action request, if you want to give action tonight for the bond referendum request.
So Beverly, you need us to make a decision then on which option we like for the jail. And then we need to make a decision on UCPS's bond request.
Yes, please.
Okay. My suggestion to Commissioner Balcom.
Yes, and I hope I'm not being redundant, but just want to be sure that we're clear. I mean, we can't move into a new jail and leave the old facility just sitting there and then use it whenever we choose to go back to it. There'll be money to spend along the way on the old facility if we don't continue to use that facility.
Yes, especially if you don't plan it for demolition. If you plan to have it possibly used at some point in the future, there is definitely some ongoing cost we're going to have to put into that facility. You did receive, we did send this out to you, a separate report done by our consultants on the continued use of that facility. And my understanding is that if you continue to show that the facility has the ability to be operated and you have it inspected on an annual basis, then you could use that facility if you had to. But you've got to actually pay all the bills, run it, not necessarily have inmates in there, because the way I interpret it is you didn't necessarily have to have inmates, but you had to have it inspected as if there were inmates in the facility. Now, that means somebody's got to manage that facility and keep it up and running and operational.
Go ahead. Well, and from my understanding as well, and Sheriff Kathy, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we remove all prisoners and put one back, we have to upfit it at that time. Is that correct? Yes, sir.
But this,
That is it. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what came from the report. So
Okay.
I guess Mecklenburg County has been on, and they've been doing this for a number of years, according to the report, is they have a facility that they don't have any inmates in, but they have it regularly inspected, and they're allowed to
Okay.
fall under the old rules because of that. Now, I'm not recommending you do that, but according to our consultant, if you do that, if you maintain it, if you don't, if you allow it to be inspected, you can continue it to be considered a functional jail. I don't necessarily think that's a great idea, but according to the report, you can.
So one of the things that I've been struggling with is the existing jail is 33 years old. And each year, we get a list of things that need to be done to that building to keep it open. And there are some major issues with that building. And while I have great respect for Sheriff Kathy saying that he would be willing or, open to keeping the old jail, the admin portion, my recollection is the admin portion was the area that was structurally weakest, which brought this whole jail need to the table, was because there were structural issues with the admin portion, not the jail portion. So while I think it's admirable to want to, hold on to a 33-year-old building, it's just my professional experience that as that building continues to get older, it's going to cost more and more and more to maintain as opposed to a new jail.
You're absolutely correct.
So I just wanted to share that thought with my fellow board members that, please don't forget, when we found out there were structural issues with the jail, it was with the admin portion that is now option 3. So just keep that in mind when you're weighing all the options with a 33-year-old building that we would have to allocate capital to each year to maintain it.
if I'm not mistaken, and this is, I believe, something that we talked about in our retreat, if we did not try to correct the issues with the administrative portion of the current jail, then would that not eat into certain capacity or space needs that we've got with the new jail?
Yeah, so the reason option 4 is actually higher is because you are actually putting those functions that are currently in the administration portion of that inside the new jail. And so you'll see that cost difference, and it's about $10 million. That's the estimate right now. So you would have to move all those functions and provide space for that in the new jail to do that, and then move that out of the admin building. So yes, and Commissioner Merrill is 100% correct. It will absolutely cost us more money to operate that older facility. And in fact, we're aware that there is work that needs to be done to that. We were suggesting that that work be done outside of a bond referendum, that you not put that in the referendum if you choose to do that.
And what, do we have any clear, I think that we've discussed this at our retreat as well, but what was the initial cost estimate for the existing admin building?
Is the question to correct the kind of structural issues that we're
Correct.
dealing with?
Yeah.
It's on that slide. I believe it's about well, I'll just let you pull it up again.
For some reason, I was thinking 2 million.
Yeah, it's about 1.8 million.
1.5.
1.5, okay.
Okay.
Wasn't it about 2 million to demolish it?
That's correct, yes, ma'am. It's about 2
About 2
million.
million to keep it and 2 million to get rid of it.
And that 2 million is not the total cost to keep it. That's just a sort of.
Ongoing.
That's
Ongoing.
just to fix it. We've got ongoing costs you need to build into our budget, absolutely.
And just to clarify, the demolition cost for option 3 is just demoing the jail, not the admin portion. The demo cost for option 4 would be demoing the admin and the jail and recreating those spaces in the new jail. And that's, to Brian's point, it's about $10 million more in initial capital as opposed to trying to correct the existing issues with the admin facility.
Commissioner Balkin.
I would love to ask our sheriff to step down here and speak just a little bit, just share some comments and some thoughts before I raise my hand on anything in particular. But I'm leaning towards 3 pretty hard, but I would love to hear his thoughts.
Welcome, Sheriff.
All right, now you want my thoughts.
Yes, sir.
4 or 3 is basically the same thing, it's according to which end you put the cost on. The admin building, we're using it now, it's fine. It is gonna have to have some building done to it, where it's cracked in the back, sunk about 6 inches at the back side of it, and it'll have to be raised back up. The jail portion is where the problem's at. I mean, it's a, right now, let's see, yes, this week, we're spending $450,000 with Blackwater to come in to reprogram things. We're putting 8 new heat and air conditioners on that jail as we speak this week. It's never ending. It's falling in. The sewer system, the health department's been down there. They're not happy with us. And it's the paint falling off the walls. I mean, we're having to stay on it all the time. We're $5 to $8 million a year to maintain the jail. The administration, we can get by with the administration. Of course, we'll say this. If we broke ground on it next spring, it'll be 4 years, 5 years before we're in that jail. So there's a lot going to be spent on both of them before you get into a new facility. So I would say, as far as I'm concerned, 3 is probably your best option.
Thank you, Sheriff.
So the admin building, it's going to require some money going forward, but it's not, the jail is where the true
The jail is the jail, you've got to maintain all the inmates in the jail. It's sinking, the floor's sinking, the sewer system, everything's collapsing in the jail. Water runs through the ceiling. You put trash cans out to catch water. I mean, it's not a good facility. We're sleeping them in the floor. I mean, it's at its limit.
Okay, and so the admin does have some structural issues, but it's
got
not
some
near.
structural issues in the backside.
And just to clarify a little bit, I think the main structural issues we're dealing with is in the admin. I think what the sheriff is saying is The systems within the jail are what's failing, your plumbing, your electrical, your sewer, your door lock controls, all the systems. From a foundational standpoint, we are not seeing the issues there that we are on the admin, but the things that are going wrong with the jail are very, very expensive, and they continue to go wrong. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
So my suggestion is that, we look at these one at a time. So I think that since we've got the jail up, let's make a decision here on which option we like. Yes, ma'am.
Well, after conversations with the sheriff and Chief Underwood, I've spoken to both of them, and I've toured the jail. At the SAVE program, one of Sheriff Cathy's deputies showed me pictures of that particular area of the jail and how the majority of that portion was in mud at some point in time. So this is not a want, it's a need. So I think we need to go ahead and eliminate 1 and 2 because I just don't think that the cost-saving options are going to be there for us. I'd like to recommend that we go with option 3. And like I've said, I've spoken to Sheriff Cathy and Chief Underwood in regards to this since, thankfully I've never had to visit the jail besides that one time that I went for the SAVE program. They live in this and they work in it and they're the experts in it. So I'm going to fall to their recommendation and go with option 3.
Does the county have an analysis for how much it's going to cost us to keep the admin building? One to repair it, and because we're not seeing that here, and we're getting ready to make a decision, and clearly money is going to have to be spent if we want to go with option 3. That's
Sure.
not on this sheet.
Sure. So no, we don't have a broken out analysis of if you just maintain the admin portion.
Well, maintain and repair.
Right. Repair, we do have some information. That was about 1.5 plus another 700. So the estimate for our maintenance and repair was roughly about 2.25 million. Now, ongoing operations, no, I don't have any of that broken out. But the estimated repair work for now that we know of for that building was shown at about 2.25 million.
Okay. Thank you. That
Yes.
answers my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balcom.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, I'll make it very brief because I had already eliminated option 1 and 2. Was wrestling back and forth between 3 and 4. And I really wasn't armed with the information to make a sound judgment on my own. So I spoke with the sheriff, and his team, that's the group that's there on a daily basis. So I'm going to go with his recommendation, and my recommendation would be option 3.
All right, so do we want to make a motion and take a vote on this then?
Chairman Helms, I'd like to make a motion that we go for option 3 for the bond for the new jail. Is that sufficient? Mr. Kay?
It is for me.
Okay, thank you. That's what I care about.
Okay, so we've got a motion to approve option 3, which is, of course, the new jail and then the reuse of the administrative portion for the sheriff's office for training and staff support spaces. Any discussion on the motion?
No, sir.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 1 down, 1 to go.
Can we take a 2-minute break? My back is killing me.
You want to take a?
Can we please take a break?
Yeah.
I need to stand up. My back is
So we have a request from the vice chair for a quick recess. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess, 5-minute break, and then we'll resume with discussion regarding UCPS bond.
Gonna bust up my over-under on that one. I was at
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, staff and everybody here in attendance for humoring us there for that little break. All right, so now that leaves us with a decision on the UCPS bond referendum request. Okay, well, I'll throw this out there. So, I think that it was very good information that we've had tonight. Beverly, thank you very much. And I want to thank, our UCPS folks for being here and providing us information and answering all of our questions. The information I think that stood out to me the most is that although we're looking at a quarter of a penny increase, should this go on referendum and should it pass, I think that the telling sign to that is that if we are fiscally responsible and we pay down some of our debt, then we could be looking at no tax rate implication whatsoever in 28. That's my takeaway. And correct me if I'm wrong, Beverly or Brian.
Right,
But-
so if that's the direction you would like to give, we would probably need to model that and bring that back to you at the next meeting to verify that. But yes, you are correct. Any additional money you put in as a revenue source to pay down debt, of course, is going to lessen that tax rate impact in the future.
Well, I don't know that we necessarily need to model it. I feel confident that, should we pay down a good portion of our existing debt, that, we should have at least minimal impact, probably less of an impact than what we would for a quarter of a penny. Would that be fair?
I think that's a fair statement, yes, sir.
Okay. So, I'm of the opinion that, and listen, this is coming from somebody that, believes in the Parkwood cluster because my kids are zoned there. I honestly believe that we're better served in waiting until 2028 to put this on bond referendum. And I say that because, well, again, if we have the chance to not have a tax rate implication, then I think that we should take that chance. So I'll make the motion that that we do not, and Mr. Kay, if I need to rephrase that, just please let me know. But I'll make the motion that we do not put the that we do not accept the bond referendum request for this fiscal year, and that we revisit that for the 2028 bond referendum. Is that fair enough? Okay. And again, I think that the answer is it's not no, but it's a no for now. When we're facing so many different challenges, right now, I think that the responsible thing to do, pay down that debt, and then see if we can't have a zero, impact to our tax rate in 2028. So that's the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item of business is item 26-220, presentation on the FY 2027, FY 2030 opioid settlement or strategic plan, opioid settlement strategic plan. How's that? I will now recognize Deputy County Manager Patrick Nyland concerning this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have given, it's at the end. I have given two updates to this board somewhat recently. One was back in September of 2025 when we started the strategic planning process, and the most recent was at the retreat, just to kind of give you an update. We are in the second phase of funding for this program. The first phase was 3 years. We're looking at 4 years for the second phase. And the reason we're doing that is there's a lot of staff time that has gone into this 8-9 month process. When the state started negotiating these settlements, they basically gave counties two options. You had Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Exhibit A is kind of a menu of options. It said if it's on that list, it's allowed, you can do it, you don't have to do a strategic plan. We decided to do Exhibit B, which gives us more flexibility, but it is also a lot more labor intensive. I will say that most of what we fund is allowed on Exhibit A. There's just a few programs that, because we wanted to do a certain way, pushed us into that Exhibit B. So part of the strategy over these next 4 years is looking at those programs that require us to do Exhibit B to say, can we somehow get them into Exhibit A? Because it's a labor-intensive process to go through this strategic plan. And I'd like to thank a few people before we get started. Stephanie Starr, Ana Diaz, Tracy Colley, Maribel Andon, Jackie Morgan, and Janet Payne. I think I said in the first presentation to y'all, I'd put these 6 people up against anybody in the county, and I still stand by that. They are incredible employees we have. They're dedicated, they care, and we've got a great product that we're presenting to you tonight, but we do think there's a more efficient way to do it moving forward. So with all that being said, I'm going to get into what our recommended funding action is for the next 4 years. Just an overview of kind of what Union County has received to this point. We are just under $20 million of total funding. Most of the big settlements have been settled. We know when we're getting the money. There's a few that are still outstanding. We know the dollar amount on some of them. We just don't know when that's going to come in. Some of them have been lump sum payments that we receive all at once. Some have been spread out over a number of years. So there's a couple that we're still waiting on. There's one for about $2 million that'll factor into not this 4 years, but the next funding cycle. We still don't entirely know when that's going to be distributed and how it's going to be distributed to us. But it's a lot of money, and it can only be used to address the opioid issue in Union County. Strategic planning. This is what I mentioned that we started back in September of 2025. We had a strategic plan work group. We invited a number of community partners. The sheriff was there, local law enforcement, the DA, just a number of individuals across the spectrum to bring them together to say, what are your needs? What are you seeing in the community? We had 5 work meetings from September to December. From that, we generated an RFA, and that's what I talked about at the retreat. We asked for feedback. We put our strategic plan together and said, okay, now community partners, tell us what you need from us to try to address this need. From that, we came up with 11 strategies. I'm not going to read through them all. And I want to go back and just mention that we're not asking for any action tonight. This is all for information. We will bring this back at the next board meeting for action. There's a lot of information, and in the interest of time, I haven't included all of it in the presentation, but you will receive it in a packet after the meeting. So you have time to look through it, digest it, and ask any questions. But these are the 11 strategies that came from that working group.
We definitely appreciate that, Patrick, because I don't know that we've got enough room for another packet.
It was a heavy meeting. Just the RFA, just wanted to give you a sense. I showed this at the retreat of when we developed it, when we put it out, and now we're here talking about what our recommended funding strategies are. We received 18 applicants. Each applicant was asked to apply for a specific strategy. A lot of these were existing partners. We did have some new partners submit as well, so that was good to see. We are recommending 12 entities for funding that address 10 of those strategies. And these are the recommended agencies. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to talk about some of our bigger partners and some of the new programs coming on. One of the things we didn't have in the first 3 years is peer support. So when a person is in an addiction cycle, they really need someone to be able to talk to. And we don't have that capacity at a county level, but there are organizations that have people with lived experience, that have been through it, that have gotten clean, that have gotten their life figured out. And that's really what these folks need to see that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Because when they're trapped in this addiction cycle, it's hard for them to see past to tomorrow. So there is an organization, Haji House, out of Mecklenburg County that would provide peer support to Union County residents. It has to be for Union County residents. they can be based in a different county, but it's only for our citizens in this county. We are still working through the logistics of this partner. We're trying to find a way that we can structure it to where they can provide that support. And they would be able to provide that support for people that are in other treatment programs too, that don't have a peer support component. McLeod Center for Wellbeing, that's another MAT, medically assisted treatment facility. It's always good to have options. Some people want evidence-based, some people want faith-based. So the more providers we have in the county, it gives more options to those folks that are dealing with addiction. UCPS. We kind of funded them late in the first cycle, and what we have worked with, and this is one of the strategies that pushes us into Exhibit B, their program currently is focused on prevention, and what the state wants to see is a more intervention approach. They want you to get involved when kids are having a problem and get them to treatment. So we can, because we went through the strategic planning process, we can fund a prevention program for Union County Public Schools. So this would fund, I believe, 3 staff members, and the goal would be that over the next 4 years, they would train their nurses in the schools to be able to do the prevention piece and let us focus on more intervention moving forward. Right now, it's only in 2 clusters, Porter Ridge and Sun Valley, and the goal is to expand that beyond. We are also proposing to expand the Behavioral Health Collaborative because that is a more intervention led approach. Our therapists that are in the schools they're not there for long-term treatment, but they're there to identify kids that are in crisis that need help and get them to the right treatment. So we're actually able to utilize a lot of what they're already doing and capture some of that salary with opioid funding. So between the schools and our Behavioral Health Collaborative, we have education, prevention, and intervention components in Union County Public Schools. The treatment courts is another one that is a big component of our funding partners. This would continue funding those, and at the end of this, I'll talk a little bit about long-term, because there's a lot of money, and it goes on for a lot of years, but at some point, decisions are going to have to be made about, do we continue the program, do we scale the program back, or do we try to supplement with other funding? That could be local dollars, that could be state dollars, but these programs can't go on forever without something happening. Transportation program. One of the things we heard across every community partner is, okay, these people they've been through it, they've gotten clean, they're trying to get employment, and they can't get to a drug test. They can't get to a job interview. So we are putting aside a pot of money that would allow for folks that are in these treatment programs to say, okay, I've been through it, I'm clean, I need to go to a job interview. And we're still figuring out if it'd be managed by the program or our internal folks, but it would provide up to a certain amount for these people to get to drug tests if they need to get to jobs. It's not something that is going to support them forever, but it'll get them so where they can get to where they need to go to get their life back on track. And then communications. There's 2 components. One is a lot of people don't know what resources we do have available in the county, and there are a lot of resources. So we need a more strategic communication plan on how we communicate to the community. And these are for folks that are dealing with addiction. These are for their family members on what resources are available so they don't have to guess. And then there's a program called the PORT program, post-overdose response team, and that's when someone has overdosed and they are looking for resources. They need someone to call to say, you know, my son did this, my daughter did this, my wife, my husband, where do I go? And I think it was Chairman Helms asked, you know, what staff capacity do we have internally to do some of this? And this is one of the programs we're looking at internally to say, okay, we have social workers, we have therapists, what can we do internally, and maybe expand upon it a little bit with our existing staff. So it's not adding new staff, it's looking at our existing staff to say, how can we help these folks that are in need? These are some of the applicants that were not recommended, and they generally fall into a couple categories. One is they were just asking for way too much money. Some of these programs were asking for $3 million a year, and it was not feasible to fund some of those. And a lot of them are overlapping services with existing partners or some of other things we were looking at. So unfortunately, not everyone received funding, but we do feel with the recommended funding strategy, we have covered to the best of our ability what the community needs. These are the dollar amounts on the recommendations, and this is, again, over a 4-year period. It's a lot of money, but this can only be used for these programs. So it's not like we could use the $7 million to fund Parks and Rec or jail construction. It has to stay within this program. And we are not going to spend a little over $7 million, but this is what's appropriated. So at the end of the next 4-year cycle, whatever isn't spent goes back in to that pot for the next 3-year cycle. And that becomes important in the out years when we start looking at some of what the schools are doing, some of what the collaborative is doing, and what the treatment courts are doing, because, as I mentioned a second ago, we can't fund those 100% for the next 15 years. We think we can go about 8 years fully funding those programs, and then decisions have to be made. I'm going to pull up one other spreadsheet real quick, and this is kind of our master spreadsheet, and you don't need to necessarily understand it, but what goes into here is our annual revenue, and that's just basically these settlements are paying out a certain amount every year. Anything that is unspent is earning interest in a special revenue fund, so that has to go back into the program. You take out what's been spent and what's projected to be spent, and what it gets you is this kind of running total. What's shaded in green gets us through fiscal year 2030. Beyond that, we have projected out the treatment courts, the schools, and the collaborative, and you can see at about 2034 is when we think at that point we can fund those programs at 75%. Now again, that is not taking into account any interest that's been generated or anything that's been underspent over the next 8 to 10 years. So those numbers will look differently. This also doesn't account for those additional settlements that may come on. But I wanted to show this to at least let you all know that we are thinking about what this looks like. It's a very long runway, but it's not forever. So the next 4-year cycle after this, I think, becomes even more important to say, what is our strategy beyond that? And what do we do toward the end of this program? Because we are still in the early phases of this. So I just wanted to show you all that to let you know we are thinking about that component of it. So I went over that very quickly and a lot of information. And again, not asking for anything tonight, but there will be a resolution placed on the May 4th meeting, which would approve those funding strategies. So can answer any questions tonight, or if you have any questions over the next 2 weeks. One thing I forgot to mention, there were 2 partners that were funded the first 3 years that did not apply for funding. It was Ground 40 and Wingate University. We reached out to them. They were involved in the planning process, and just for whatever reason, it didn't work for them for this next 4-year cycle, so I just wanted to mention that.
Commissioner Merrill.
So first off, I want to say thank you to everyone who helped, drill this down and look at what our particular community needs and prioritizing the 12 that were selected. I'm excited to see Cameron's House of Hope to still be on that list for funding, because I do believe they're doing really great work.
They do amazing things.
So thank you for that. I wanted to ask about Union County Public Schools. You said it was at Porter Ridge and Sun Valley. Was that middle school or high schools or both?
It's both, high school and middle school.
Okay. And at the end of this, I think I saw a note where it said expanded.
Mm-hmm.
Have they identified, are they going to expand this to all middle schools and high schools, or do you know what the plan might be, or is it too early?
They do have a plan. Again, this is because what they have focused on is prevention, and we have told them that if we can get them to more of an intervention approach with opioid funding, thank you, that it may look a little different moving forward. They ultimately want to expand it to every cluster, every school. But what that looks like over the next 4 years, we'll have to work with them, because what would have to happen is their existing staff would have to do the education prevention, and then we could fund more of an intervention approach. But we do know their goal is to expand it to as many clusters, as many schools as possible.
Yeah, it's really good. If you don't mind going back to that slide, I think Union County Public Schools, I just wanted to verify the one with the dollar figures. Maybe it was towards the end. Okay. So $1.3 million you know, if it's just for 2 middle schools and 2 high schools.
It's really for the employees associated with that. So there's 3 total employees that we would be funding for that 4 years. But from those 3 employees, the hope is they train their local folks, so it's exponentially greater. What those 3 folks can do is exponentially greater than just those 3. The hope is that they train existing staff and existing clusters that can then pick up that program moving forward.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
All right, so our next item, business is related to the Stage 1 drought declaration that was added to the agenda at the start of our meeting. I'll now recognize County Manager Brian Matthews for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see if I can pull this up. So, what you may not be aware of is here in Union County, we are part of actually 2 groups that are regionally concerned with the management of our water resources. On the Catawba side, we're involved with a number of the agencies that actually draw water out of the Catawba, and as a function of our permit, we actually have to declare a drought. There's several stages based on certain criteria. We are required to actually declare a drought when the region actually makes the same declaration. That has occurred here in the Catawba region. That group has declared a Stage 1 drought, and I'll go through a little bit of that information here in just a minute. But because of that was done, I believe, on the 16th of April, we must also follow suit within a certain period of time making a drought declaration. That responsibility is mine. As the manager, it's my responsibility to make that. I will be officially declaring a Stage 1 drought tomorrow, April 21st. I'm making you aware of it. There are some things that we have to do as a county, as an organization because of that. I'll talk a little bit about that. But I also want to make you aware that this isn't going away, and in fact, it's probably going to get worse. Unfortunately, this is more of a nationwide issue. It's not just us. It's not just North Carolina. Nationwide, we are in a drought situation. And if you look at any of the reports out there, you'll see that we're in desperate need of rain. We need it. So, as I said, extremely dry conditions. We're part of that Catawba Watery Drought Management Group. That's what that is. We're also part of a group in the Yadkin Basin. Our customers are all one customer. So when we declare a drought for Catawba, it's a drought in the Yadkin as well. We did, because they're all customers in our system. We really can't distinguish between them in our system. So when we make that declaration, it's for both. So we've done the same. If we'd have made a declaration in the Yadkin, it would have applied to the Catawba as well. So I'll make that clear. There's some voluntary things we have to do. We try to achieve a 3 to 5% reduction in our overall water use. We encourage our residents to go out there and try to reduce the amount of water they're using, essentially maybe cut down on your irrigation that you may be doing. Again, these are not mandatory. These are things that we're encouraging them to do. And it's a way for us as a region to try and reduce the impacts. Here's some of the things that equal the triggers that we have to face and why it gets us to certain stages. See that blue area there, or very darker blue? That shows you there's sort of 3 different categories that trigger this. And depending on where you are, it tells you whether you're in Stage 1 or Stage 2. The real important part of this is when you actually trigger it, to get out of it, you have to move these items back above where they were. So if you see number 2, where it's at 46.1%, it can't just go up a little bit. It has to actually go all the way up past stage 0, for us to get out of a stage 1 drought. That's the trick to this. You can't just move up a little bit. Once you declare it, there's a lot that you have to do to be able to get back to, hey, I'm at stage 0, or if you go from stage 2 to stage 1. And I will talk about stage 2 in just a minute. This is just information about the federal regulatory framework. We're required to participate in this as part of our permit. North Carolina, South Carolina do work together on this because obviously the Catawba shares in both states. So it's important that we all work and try to manage that resource as best as possible. I'm just letting you know. I'm doing the drought declaration tomorrow. We're going to update this information on our website and our social media. We're going to notify our employees by email. We'll send bill inserts to all our customers. These are things we're required to do per the plan when we say we're going to go to stage 1. These are some other items. We're going to issue press release. We're going to prepare for a potential stage 2. This is what's important. I guess they want us out of here. So, unfortunately, we're very close to what would be declared a stage 2. We will find out likely either the 1st of May or the 15th of May whether it's a declaration of a stage 2. Stage 2 is different. Stage 2 has some mandatory requirements. That's not on here. When you go to a stage 2, it actually will require rate changes and other mandatory conservation. I'm not going to go into that tonight because I'm planning to do that on May 4th. On May 4th, I will give you another update because we intend to actually have a better idea whether we're in stage 2 or close to being to declare for stage 2. But I will give you more details about what those requirements are for stage 2, what those rate changes may be, and how that affects this organization. Right now, just want to make you aware of it. Most of the changes are voluntary. We do have to do some communication and some education with the public. Nothing really for the board to do at this point. But if stage 2 is declared, there are some significant changes. So just wanted to make you aware of it. Are there any questions that you guys may have for me?
Brian, I've got a question. So do we have any bearing on when Union County was last under a stage 2 drought? I know we're not there yet, but
I don't know the answer to that. We've been under stage 1 before. I want to say that it was, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
2008 or 2009?
2008, 2009. Okay. So, and I was wrong. It won't be on the 4th. It'll be 18th. I'll do a presentation to you guys about it because we will know then for sure whether we're in stage 2 at that time. But 2008 or 2009, again, that was more of a nationwide issue that we were dealing with, and that was severe, very severe.
It's 2009.
2009, very good. Any other questions for me? All right, well, just wanted to give you a heads up on that, and I will turn it over to you. Thank you, sir.
thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is item 26-204, appointment of 3 members to the Broadband Committee. There are 3 expiring terms on this committee. And we've actually received 3 applications, have we not? Okay. All right, so we have received 3 applications. 2 of those applications are for reappointment and 1 additional application for appointment. Is there any motions from the board regarding these positions?
Chairman Helms, I'd like to make a recommendation that we reappoint Hank Gamber, Robert Mullis, and appoint Andy, help me with his last name? Yeah.
Andy. We'll just go with Andy.
Okay. To the Broadband Committee.
Now, is this a motion or a recommendation?
A motion.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Balkin, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm good. Andy's out there somewhere. He knows who he is.
Yeah, okay, fair. Okay.
Okay, so that would be the Andy as published in our documentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Not just any Andy?
Just
and
that particular
Yes,
Andy.
okay. All right, so we have a motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're in the home stretch here. Next item of business is item 26-233, resolution in support of county property tax flexibility. Well, if you got some comments, but,
But no, if you wanted me to speak up.
I mean, you certainly can.
Only if you need me to.
All right, so, I think that we've all seen, and, Commissioner Merrill, you had emailed some information too, but I think we've all seen a lot of talk and a lot of buzz right now about property tax reform there in the General Assembly, and I feel like it's important that our board, adopt a resolution that signifies the county's stance on this topic, and I want to be very, very clear as we look at this resolution that, and I'm not trying to speak for every member of this board, but I think I can say with general certainty that no member of this board would support reckless tax increases for the residents of our county and the people that we serve here. And I also want to say too that, Union County has one of the leanest governments in the state of North Carolina, and our board and our staff are certainly committed to fiscal responsibility, and we're wise with the use of our tax dollars at every single turn. I mean, I think that you saw some of that discussion tonight. We've even implemented a strategy and innovation team in the county that in a lot of ways acts as our county Doge here. And I think, though, that we have to realize, though, that some local governments are not Union County. And as I understand it, what's being discussed in Raleigh probably wouldn't even affect the tax rate that we have here in Union County due to the fact that it's lower. It would, however, affect a handful of counties that have not necessarily been responsible with tax dollars. And so I think, once again, we're seeing sort of that one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to legislation from Raleigh, where they look to legislate for 100 counties, essentially for the sins of maybe 5. Personally, and this is included in our resolution, but personally I feel that the property tax reform and property tax reform just in general may be warranted, but especially in specific circumstances for folks like senior citizens, individuals who are disabled, and also our military veterans. And I'm certainly not opposed to targeted relief. And so I want to be very, very clear that this board and I am not proposing that we have the ability to just, overtly and irresponsibly tax. But I think that we all need to understand too that at least from my perspective, I feel strongly that tax decisions, and generally a lot of decisions that we deal with, are best left to the government that's closest to the people. You see, Raleigh created, it's just my opinion, but I believe that Raleigh created many of the problems that we have with property taxes that we see today. It was Raleigh that pushed their funding responsibilities to local governments. Education funding, and we saw this tonight, education funding is one of the biggest of these responsibilities that is being slowly funneled to local governments to pick up more and more every single year. It was Raleigh that has continuously incentivized residential growth throughout Union County and even the rest of the state. And that's residential growth that costs more in services than it brings in tax revenue, growth that doesn't pay for itself. It was Raleigh that told local governments to just deal with it or budget better to accommodate that growth that they incentivized that we can't pay for. It was Raleigh that ignored the pleas from this board when we asked for the ability to reserve sewer capacity for much-needed commercial growth to lessen the impact of taxes for the people that we serve. And it was also Raleigh that decided that impact fees for developers to assist with school funding was unconstitutional. Yet 10 miles down the road in South Carolina is perfectly fine and legal. And it was also Raleigh that refuses to explore an amendment to allow impact fees to be renewed and restored. So it's Raleigh that's created these problems, and now Raleigh wants to offer the solution to the problem that they created, all the while vilifying some local governments who are struggling to keep up with unfunded mandates and to provide the services for the people that they serve. I think this resolution is a step in the right direction. It at least puts pen to paper our position. And, you know, I would like to see Raleigh start prioritizing the people and not special interest. I think that impact fees would be a great start, and they should be restored. And I believe that they should give us the tools to support those that we serve. And so I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution in support of the county property tax flexibility. And I'll open it up for discussion for any other comments.
I just appreciate the information that you've shared just now and in all the other meetings, and I will be supporting this resolution. Sitting on the board with Centralina, you know, I get to hear from many other counties that are really shocked and dismayed with the property tax increases that we're forced to do from Raleigh for the revals. Some of us were at a meeting over in the Sun Valley area just last week, and there continues to be misinformation out there that the county is the one who gave them a 60% tax increase. And these are people that want to sit on this board and don't understand that we did not give a 60% increase on their property taxes. You know, I just think that the counties and maybe the municipalities too are just easy targets to be blamed, you know, for their tax increase, where we didn't want a revow, we didn't ask for a revow on all of our properties. And people who sold their homes and the realtors who listed the homes enjoyed, you know, those large sale, you know, prices, but the comps affect all of us, the ones that are staying here and haven't sold and moved. But I don't know what it's going to take, you know, how much communication is, you know, we can do to get out there for more people to understand that this was a state mandate from Raleigh, you know, with everything that you said. So it is interesting. I did have to chuckle when I saw that they were working on a property tax solution, and no one reached out to us, you know, to work on a committee or help solve this problem. So I will be supporting this resolution, and I do hope that somehow or another we can let our Union County residents understand that their 60% increase on their property values, and some of our areas had over an 80% increase in their property tax values. It wasn't this board. A lot of it comes out of Raleigh. It's mandated. So thank you very much for working on this.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a very good point, because, you know, those triggers, it goes back to the triggers of 115% or 85%, and that's not this board's decision. That's state law. So, any other discussion?
No, you hit the nail on the head.
All All right, all those in favor, say aye. All right. So we've finally hit the county manager's favorite part, right? Which is county manager comments.
Well, I actually do have just a couple of things. First off, I want to congratulate Liz Cooper on Communicator of the Year award, and also her team won 4 awards, I believe, as well, recently at that same conference. So we have a really great team there. They do a wonderful job in making sure that we try to get the word out to our residents and also our staff. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations to Liz. Also, I believe the board members have heard from some of our employees about the upcoming changes for health care and our health costs. And so it's my intention at the May 4th meeting to kind of give you more of an update so you can see, what's changing, what impacts they may have, some examples of how that works. We have some workshops scheduled for employees to be able to get some of that information starting, I believe, in May. Our open enrollment is May 1st through May 29th. But I think it's important for us to be able to, talk to the board and the public about why these changes are coming and what the impact of that is. So I look forward to giving that to the board, and also my, my condolences go out to the Sides family, and certainly he will be missed. And I worked with Gary in both Stallings and here in Union County, and unfortunately it was a short time, but he will be missed. And thank you very much.
Commissioner Balcom.
Sure. Thank you, Brian. I know there's been so much reflection tonight on Commissioner Sides, but just one more thought. The word just came to me, optimistic. He was always optimistic, I thought. He and I didn't always agree, but he was optimistic and respectful towards each other. And my memory had sort of slipped me. I remember when our school board stood up to, it seemed, the whole world at one time when we're in the COVID battle. And I was remembering how Melissa told me he was so instrumental in that fight with her. That had sort of slipped my mind.
Well,
because
not a fight with me.
No, not fighting with you. Fight alongside of Melissa, who shared the board at that time. So I remember being so proud of our school board, and I actually went and was supporting them. They had the smart people on one side of the sidewalk, these other people on the other side of the sidewalk, and then I spoke with someone who was actually there from Harlem, New York, to try to force our decisions in Union County. And I thought, wow, our school board's standing up against the whole world. And they stood, and Gary Sides was a big part of standing alongside our chair, Melissa. So I just give him a big tip of the hat for that, for his courage and for standing like that. And that's all I've got. Just to encourage everybody to be careful going home. Thanks for all the hard work and all the papers I get to carry home. Good night.
All the trees.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to thank our staff for doing such an honorable and nice way of remembering Gary tonight at his seat. The flowers and everything are absolutely beautiful. I've had a text with Myra, and I think you've seen messages from one of his sisters, how much it means to their family that we've done this tonight. And I just want to thank Mary Bell and all of our staff for always doing such a great job at the last minute when these things happen and we're not prepared for them. I do want everyone to know it has been listed on social media and places, but I just want to remind everyone that Gary's memorial service will be this Sunday. You can get the times for visitation and the service. I think the service starts at 3:30, but visitation
Starts at 2.
at 2. So,
At Lee Park.
so if anyone would like to pay their respects to Gary and his sweet family, all of his sisters, have come in, and his children are here. So if you'd like to join on Sunday at Lee Park, you would be absolutely welcomed. And I know our cowboy would be. He probably wouldn't like all of this mushy stuff tonight, and he would not be happy with me crying, but he'd probably kick me with his boots. But I can't think of a better way to remember such an impactful person who has done so much for our county over the last 10 to 12 years, beginning with Stallings. I was traveling when I saw the announcement that our very own Liz Cooper had gotten the North Carolina 2026 Communicator of the Year. And to you, I want to say well deserved. We are so blessed to have Liz Cooper and her team in Union County. So, congratulations, much deserved, and congratulations to your team as well. Your entire team is very, very appreciated. And I just hope everyone, thank you everyone who showed up to remember Gary tonight and your kind words. Thank you for being here. It reminded me when I saw Richard Daunt here tonight, we were with Gary and Brian. We were by Stoney's side all together before he passed away, and now Gary's in a much better place. We just weren't ready. But thank you for being here tonight. It means a lot. So travel home safely, and I'll pass it on to Ms. Helms.
Vice Chair Helms.
Thank you, sir. First like to start off thanking your bride, Deb Helms, for getting all the ribbons for us for a remembrance of Gary for his type of brain cancer that he had. So we are very grateful for her for getting that together for us. Something that a lot of people don't realize, that when you sit on a board similar to this, how much time we spend in our own lives talking to other board members, not necessarily just this board, but outside boards as well. And you really do get a very special bond with those people. And, there's a lot of time that, again, you don't realize until you sit on a board that a lot of that time is taken away from your family, from your spouse. Sometimes you have to step away from your job at work to do board business. And so you do become a family. Kids, you learn kids well and their likes and dislikes. So when a tragedy like this hits, it's very impactful to the boards personally. I was on the board when Mr. Crowder passed away from on the Board of Education, and he was just the dearest soul ever. And even though he passed, and Commissioner Merrill and Commissioner Helms had to recently, I guess, relive it. The Band-Aid was ripped off again after Gary passed away, to kind of relive Stoney again. And again, we become a family up here. And so it can be difficult quite some time to go through this. So we appreciate patience and grace that you've shown us. Please continue to pray for Myra and the Sides family. We lost a colleague, and yes, kind of a family member, but they lost a dad, a husband, a brother. And so, just pray for peace and grace and comfort for them. I do appreciate all the speakers that came in tonight. Unfortunately, we had the task to find a new member to fill Gary's seat. And there's been some talk on social media about how we made that process. Well, the GOP met on the 16th, and in my opinion, the GOP appointed somebody that has very similar ideals, outlook, and vision for this county. And I'm very happy that Errol Wedra will hopefully get appointed at our next meeting, and then he will be on the ballot in November. To Liz and her team, congratulations. Mr. Sides passed away, I believe, when you were receiving your award, when you were at your conference. And Liz still came through as the champ that she is and got all the press releases out, got our quotes for the press releases, and still did all that while at conference. So, you know, Liz is just top tier. Please continue to pray for the troops that are in the Middle East, this ongoing conflict. And closer to home, please pray for rain. We are obviously coming in a dire situation. Many industries are relying on this. Our own consumption is relying on this. So if you are a praying person, please continue to pray for rain. And thank you for everyone for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So I'll keep my comments brief, but I do want to say this, and a couple things about Gary. When we were talking about the resolution, I was sort of picturing Gary, because the very first time that I saw Gary live and in person at a board meeting was Board of Education meeting on May 4th, 2021. And I know because I was there with Richard Drought and the Wedras and Melissa, and Gary, of course, was a board member, and Melissa was chairing the board, and that was a very turbulent time, as you all know. But Gary made the comment about, and this was his words. He said, "The bozos in Raleigh," and so I had Gary sort of popping into my mind when we were talking about that. But I will say that I agree with Clancy that Gary was a very optimistic person, and we didn't always agree on this board, and I think that, you know, Gary always led with his heart, and so which was great, but there was points of contention, and I remember I corrected him one time about a rule that we have, part of our rules of procedure here on this board, and I thought he was mad at me. Okay, I really did. I was like, man, I made Gary mad, and because he left pretty abruptly that night. But the very next time I saw him, he brought it up, and he's like rule number whatever it was, and he's like, "You got me," and just slapped me on the back like Gary does, and he said, "I had to go home and look that up." So yeah, we obviously do have fond memories of Gary, and it is difficult, you know, to lose a friend, and you know, it's difficult for Union County because Gary did do a lot of things for Union County that a lot of people never saw. But you know, business has to move on. The county will go on without any one of us up here. We have to. So yeah, so tough day today for our board, but thank you all for being here. Thank you for sticking it out with us. I concur about Liz. She's fantastic. You know, she when Gary passed, you know, Liz was working on the story, and so I called her, and I think I was out of town too, and I was in Virginia. I think I was in Richmond, but I called her and I said, I know you, that you're trying to put together stuff. She goes, "It's okay, I got you. What kind of quote do you want me to run?" And she was on it. So she does a fantastic job. But you know, I'll say this: that all of our staff does. They really do. We are very blessed and fortunate to have the staff that we have here in Union County. I mean, our county manager talks about it all the time, that the culture here is like a family, and that's what we do in times like this. We pull together like a family. So again, thank you all. Appreciate everybody being here. That is the end of my comments, and I'll just say that, I'll make a motion that we adjourn. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.